Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 266. And look where we are. We're in our brand new studio. Very excited about this. And alongside me, to inaugurate our new studio, it's Matthew Kyle. What's going on, Matt?
Not much.
What do you think about our new digs?
So bright in here.
It is a lot brighter than our other place. As you can see, we have wilderness behind us. Well, not wilderness, but the urban wilderness.
The urban wilderness of Los Angeles. Yeah. There are, in fact, trees here.
I like it, though. Like, I like being able to see outside and see, like, the action behind me. It makes the show feel a little more organic. I can't think of any gaming podcast where you can see the outside. Can you?
No, I mean, I guess, like, Jeff, a couple times Jeff's E3 thing had a window
they would, like,
on it.
They were like
across
hang out,
the street.
Yeah, they hang out like out a park or something.
Yeah, it's not common.
Yeah. So anyway,
none of us can afford space with windows like that face out.
Yeah, it could be. This is a soft launch of our new studio. I have been busting my butt for the last 3 or 4 days because I had that very short window to get out of our old studio, get everything moved in here, get it set up. So the set isn't really dressed yet. This is not what it's going to look like in its final form, but I did want to get a show out to you guys from our new spot. So things are going to change a little bit over time. You're going to notice some changes in the show today, actually, some small tweaks. We have had our lower thirds redone, and you'll see that as the show kind of kicks off proper. We've got a lot of complaints over the years that there's too much white, and people were worried about burning on their TVs. People have complained that it covers too much of the screen and they can't see the game. People have complained that sometimes they're watching the show and they don't know exactly what they're watching. All that stuff is going to be fixed with our new lower thirds, and you'll see those soon. Also kicking off next week, and I'm hoping, by the way, to have the set completely done for next week's episode. Also kicking off next week, we're going to do a fun game at the end of every episode called Name That Game. You guys will be competing against that guy, and basically how it works is, and I'll explain it again next week before it actually kicks off, is I'll go through a list of clues, and it's your job to guess the name of the game before Matt does. Now, I know you guys are sitting there saying, well, there's a delay on Twitch. How are we going to beat Matt? Because he is really good, and it is going to be tough to beat him. There's no doubt about it. But basically how it's going to work is if we have a tie, you guys are going to win. So if Matt says the name of the game, and I look over, and the name of the game pops up in the next couple seconds, you guys will get the win. And if you win, whoever does win, if you actually beat Matt at the end of every episode, you will get a free pack of sifted stickers for every winner every week. And it doesn't matter where you live. You can live anywhere. In Europe, in Asia, United States, obviously, Canada, wherever. We'll ship those stickers to anyone. And then if you win, we'll just have you send us a DM after the show is over, or even during the show once you've won. And we'll with your address, and we'll get the stickers out to you if you can beat Matt Kyle. I wish you luck. Matt, how has your week been?
It's all right. No significant things to report yet. We'll see.
No, not a lot.
Nothing came out. Well, a couple. I mean, so actually, a few things did come out, but only one thing came out I bothered to play because everything. I mean, I will admit that I'm a little curious about those Blaster Master Zero things.
Oh,
but the third one came out this week on at least on Xbox, and it didn't have a trailer or any video on it in the store, and for some reason that felt like a really big red flag.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Like when I highlight something on the store and nothing plays, I'm like, what's going on?
What's wrong? Yeah.
Why do you want to show me this?
Yep, this is probably the worst week of the year for us to launch a new studio. It is so bad. This week was so dry. I do think we have a good show for you guys today, though. I had to get a little bit creative to come up with some concepts for some segments, but I think they're going to be interesting and fun. I'm interested, actually, to see what the reaction is to our new studio. First of all, the tiers are going off. We're already well on our way to the hype train. I also want to thank people who are subscribing with Twitch Prime because it's the beginning of the month and a lot of you guys have turned over, and I don't want to miss any. Oh my gosh, so many people are hooking us up with bits and everything. Let's see. JM Rain, thank you for Twitch Prime. Axel F 1986, thank you for Twitch Prime.
Don Lionheart throwing out subscriptions.
Yep, Don Lionheart throwing out subs. Thank you. I'm guessing JM Rain's doing something along those lines.
Yeah,
because he always does. Sneaky is saying the auto balance on the camera keeps going up and down due to the sunlight. Yeah, I thought we might have problems with that. Again, soft launch of the new studio. We'll work out all like the small kinks for next week's episode. I do apologize. I did work on this today before Matt got here. I thought I had it locked down, and no, I can actually see on our monitor it is going light and dark.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it. Okay, we'll fix that for next week. I promise you. Not Cirque, thank you for Twitch Prime. Karma Lounge, thank you. Johnny Hurricane, Toast9, you guys are all awesome. JM Rain gifting tier 1 subs. Listeved, Disembodied Voice, thank you. Subscribed at tier 1. You subscribed for 11 months. That's awesome. And Liberal Hack giving out subs to everybody. It's awesome. That's a great username, by the way. Delfino109, thank you for Twitch Prime. They just keep coming in. Thanks, you guys. This is awesome. I didn't see any feedback on the studio, though. I hope you guys like it. I do regret a little bit doing a soft launch. You always kind of want to come out of the gate strong. But I still think it looks way better than our old set.
Even here's Grzilla.
Without it even being dressed. Grzilla, thank you for all the...
257% level 5 hype train.
Wow. We're already at the level 5. I guess the new studio did create hype. Maybe that's how they're telling us that they like the studio.
They're too busy
giving us
throwing
bits.
subs in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Is there any other housekeeping? I don't believe so. There is one note, though. Towards the end of August, normally on August 31st, it's a Tuesday, we would be doing GameFace like we do every week here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. The 31st, we're going to have to shift because I have been waiting for an appointment with a knee doctor for forever, and that is the only day that they can get me in. And if I miss that, then it's not till like October or something. So one of the shows at the end of the month, we're going to have to shift maybe a day or here or there when I work with Matt on that. But just a heads up for later on in the month. Also later on in the month, we'll finally have some games to talk about, Matt. This month is starting off real weak.
Unless they get delayed.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of the things that we talk about today, like a lot of games that are being delayed. And Matt, obviously, very near and dear to your heart, one of the delays.
The Fantasy League is over.
Is it over?
Yeah.
I thought it might be.
Without that, it's over.
Yeah, I thought it might be, but I wasn't sure. I didn't actually go check to see if that was the case.
No, I think I have like 3 zeros at this point.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. You've never had a year like that before.
No, I mean COVID really threw off my radar.
It did. I think it threw off everything.
It's just impossible to be. My predictions on when things come out tend to be grounded in how I know the industry and everything functions. And once you throw in the pandemic, like it was just sort of like, who can predict? We don't know. We don't know what was happening, with Gorilla and what anything, or if this might not even be related. It might be a separate thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like, it's just there's so many new variables that I just sort of fell back on my old prediction models, and it did not pay out.
Yep. I've been lucky, on the other hand, for once with stuff that I thought wouldn't make it. Looks like it's gonna make it.
You got like 2 top tier alternates too.
Yeah, I might actually have a full team this year for
I think you might.
first time in forever. It's so funny too. I did go back and look at the comments after we did draft, and everybody was like, "Shane's gonna get destroyed. He has no chance." It just shows you how random it is. It's really hard to predict what's actually going to happen,
especially this year.
Right, and with COVID,
who could have predicted that there would be no Sony games for the second half of the year?
And Matt, I love you for that, because that transitions perfectly into our first topic for this week's show. What's up with PlayStation 5, Matt? I've mentioned on the show prior that the Xbox Series X has turned into my daily driver. In fact, I tweeted about it the other day.
Same. I mean, yeah.
It's your daily driver too?
Yeah.
I tweeted
it's
about
definitely on more often than the PS5. The PS5 is turned on to play specific games. The Xbox is turned on to be like, what do I want to play?
Yeah. It's my sampling console. Game Pass helps for sure.
Yeah.
But I tweeted that out this week, and I got a lot of pushback from people saying, you can upgrade the SSD soon. PS5.
Oh, we'll get to that, sirs. Yeah, that turned out a certain way, didn't it?
PS5 game installs are smaller,
Mr.
which they
Cerny.
are. Which they are. Which is why is that? Why are games smaller on PS5 than they are on Series?
That I don't know.
Roughly, it seems like they're about 20% smaller when it comes down to it. But I did the math.
I mean, my guess would be, and this has no basis in fact, but my guess on this would be that because of the architecture and how quickly you can access things, you don't have to duplicate data as much, because that's usually what bloats a game install, is literally duplicating the same regularly accessed data multiple places in the files. So because even at, modern stuff, even the time it takes to access a hard drive to read it, like if you can save those microseconds to like have it right there next to the level you're loading instead of going all the way back to the beginning of the file and the other part of the hard drive and pulling that out, like that can matter. But if they really have designed the PS5 to take advantage of the SSD that's in there at the certain speed it's at, so you don't need to do that, that could shrink the footprint of the file because you don't need to duplicate regularly used data as much.
Yep.
That would be my guess.
Okay.
You'd have to ask Mark Cerny to be sure, though.
Yeah. We're actually we have another topic on PS5 later in the show, so I don't want to talk about storage too much here. What we really want to talk about is the lack of games, the lack of exclusive games for PlayStation 5. Now, obviously, you're going to get a lot of the third-party stuff. That's not going to be a problem. But, Matt, your
as long as Call of Duty comes out, it seems like Sony doesn't really care.
It seems that way. But, Matt, for you personally, what we were talking about earlier and hinting at is that Horizon Forbidden West has been delayed into 2022. Was it your first pick on your fantasy team this year?
First or second?
I know it was up there for sure. What do you think's going on with this game?
I think it just needs a little more time. I'm sure it got hammered by because of the stage of development it was in. I think we're seeing a lot of games that were in that kind of that mid stage of development when the lockdown happened. Everybody had to move to home. I think you just lost literal months in some cases off of it. So, because it took a long time for some of these companies to get, not just video game companies, but to get their, hundreds and in some cases thousands of people all working from home on the same secure networks and all that. I mean, that's a huge task, and it took a long time to get all that in place for some companies. So, I think we are seeing the precipitation of that right now. Like the stuff that's come out so far this year is stuff that was already pretty far along by that point last year.
When we saw it for the first time. Some people are saying East Demon says COVID.
Yeah.
I think that certainly plays a part in it.
Yeah.
It's a little odd to me that it wasn't that long ago that they reaffirmed that it was coming out this year. Mm-hmm. So it does make me wonder, like, what happened between then and now?
Nothing.
Like, they just didn't get stuff done.
You have to stick to your PR until you don't. I think that's what happens there. Like, it's just until official word changes, like, you got to go with what you've said publicly. I mean, they were very cagey about an actual date for that game anyway. Like, we knew that.
Well, remember there was that one trailer that, like, had all these small release dates at the bottom, and everybody, and none of them ended up being right. Mm-hmm. None of them, especially now that everything's been delayed. I think why this hurts especially is because what I said when we started discussing the topic, there's not a lot else for PS5.
No, in terms of, like, only on PS5, you don't have much beyond, like, Deathloop and Kena right now.
Yeah.
Obviously the fantasy team thing is disappointed. It bugs me because Horizon was my favorite game in 2017. It's one of my favorite games on PS4, and I'd love to play the new one sooner, but I would rather play the new one in February or whatever when it's, more polished. And, we don't want another Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the right move. Like, in terms of, like, putting out a quality product, like, that's always the right choice.
Yep. And then you brought up also Kena, whatever it's called, also delayed.
I can't wait to play that and find out how they actually pronounce it in the game. Like,
it was supposed to come out this month, and literally, like, a few days before, as I was working on Dossier, the games of August 2021, they announced that it's delayed by a month. Mm-hmm. Do you think this will be the last delay?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I think it might probably be, you're only going to delay it a month. It sounds like whatever the problem is pretty minor.
You would think.
I could theoretically see them push it a little further to make it kind of a holiday exclusive game, just to make it look like the schedule's filled out more. But at the same time, Sony doesn't seem to care too much. And also, who cares? Like, that system's selling faster than they can make it. Like, it's clearly not hurting the console.
That's the underlying point behind all this. Also this week, it was announced by Sony that PlayStation 5 is its fastest selling PlayStation ever. It's the fastest console they've ever released to 10 million sold.
Yeah. It's okay. Can we stop the whole consoles are going away thing yet?
Yeah.
Can we stop trying to push that narrative like we have for 3 generations now.
It's
because they're not.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean,
I don't know about never,
not
but
never,
it's
but
a
like
ways
not.
away.
Yeah, it's not in the cards for the next generation or the one after.
Like I'm pretty confident we're getting a PlayStation 6 at this point.
Yeah.
And it may take.
Talk to me about PlayStation 8, but like I'm pretty confident we're going to have PlayStation 6 and 7.
I do wonder though. Like I think that these consoles may last like 10 years, Matt.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, certainly if they do like a pro refresh.
I think a lot will depend on how long they continue to support PS4. Mm-hmm. I think a lot will depend on how long it takes for them to get the most out of this generation.
Well, that's the thing is like because of some of the delays, because of some of the lag on these things, because of COVID and how they impacted things. Like I can see right as the PlayStation 5 sales sort of like dip to the point that you can find one in a store, all of a sudden the floodgates open and all this stuff that's been in development for so long comes out one after the other, and all of a sudden there's a whole fleet of new reasons to need a PS5, and it goes back into the stratosphere console sales wise again. Like this thing could just continue to sell until Sony, can just kind of Nintendo style, just sort of sit back and be like, well, I guess we don't need to put a new one out until people stop frenzying over the current one, right?
Yeah. Like, it's crazy, Matt. What are people buying it for?
Because it's the thing.
So I have a brother-in-law who...
It's the thing.
It is the thing. You're right. I have a brother-in-law who's been trying to get one, and he just gave up, and he bought an SSD for his PS4 Pro.
Wow.
And he says, he's like, honestly... He's like, I load in with everybody who has a PS5. I'm right there with them. My loading times are basically zero on my PS4 Pro now. He's like, it still works in 4K. He's like, playing most of the games that are straddling the generation look basically the same on his PS4 Pro. And he's like, I'm good. He's like, I'm not going to buy a PS5 now until I can just walk into a store and get one. I don't know how many people are like him at this point.
I mean, a lot of the people who are like him have not seen what Miles Morales looks like on a 4K TV on a PS5.
That's true.
It's a difference.
Or Demon Souls,
or Ratchet.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge step up for sure. But for his purposes,
it's not like they're not going to be there when the time comes.
Yeah, they are going to be. I'm curious if like a lot of people are buying this thing and they're like, now what? Because
I mean, there's still a lot to play one way or the other, but like especially if you don't have a Series X or something, if this is your one next gen platform, there's tons of stuff to play. It's just available on other platforms too, for the most part. But that doesn't matter if this is your next gen platform right now.
Matt, what would you advise people to do? Would you advise somebody to keep on the hunt for a PS5, or would you tell them to maybe pick up a PS4 Pro for cheap and just sit on it and ride that for...
No, I definitely, if you want one, find one.
Yeah.
I don't think spending that kind of money on a PS4 Pro is a wise thing when you're just going to have to get a PS5.
I'd agree. Like my brother-in-law already had a PS4 Pro.
Yeah, so if you already have one, fine.
So what about instead of hunting down a PS5, you do what my brother-in-law did, and you get an SSD for your Pro?
I do have an SSD for my Pro, and I do not find that to be I don't agree with him.
Okay, you don't find it comparable then?
No.
Okay, interesting.
Like there might, if that's good enough for him, fine. But like it's my brother-in-law finds PS5s pretty commonly, and like he doesn't spend his whole day doing it. Like he just he knows when to look, knows Thursday morning stuff drops on Target or whatever, and he finds stuff, and he's like, I got one. If you need one, I'm just like, no, I'm good.
He could basically run a small business at this point if he wanted to track it down.
If he wanted to, yeah. Like he's very good at it, but like, and he's using a lot of the same tracking like tools as like the scalpers do, but he's doing what's called Robin Hooding, where he gets them,
steals from the rich and gives to the poor.
I mean, he gets them and then he sells them for retail, and whatever it might cost him for shipping, for no profit. Like he makes no money off of them. He just hates scalping and has some free time and is good at that. So he's decided he's going to get as many as he can and sell them to people for no added cost.
Okay.
So that's what he's doing. But if he can do it, anyone you can do it too. It's possible. It's just you gotta focus on it, and it's harder for a PS5 than a Series. I mean, Series X's are. You got like a 15-minute window when Series X's come in for for order.
Yeah.
For PlayStation 5, still you sometimes have a 15-second window.
Yeah, they're gone immediately, pretty much. Matt, so we know stuff that isn't coming this year because we talked about things that have been delayed out of the year, like Horizon, which would have been probably the biggest PS5 game of 2021. Ratchet may have a word. But I think for the typical PlayStation audience, which skews a little older, I have a feeling Horizon probably would have outsold it this year, even with a smaller window for sales before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got a wider mass audience appeal in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's just the kind of game that sells now.
Yeah, for sure. And so we have to start turning our attention to, okay, well, what are we getting instead of focusing on what
Tsushima.
That's true. That's coming this month.
Yeah.
And we'll
I mean, I am excited for that, but obviously
too.
it doesn't really count the same way because it's just a update. I mean, I am excited that the expansion is apparently the size of that first island. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like that makes the price make a little more sense.
Yeah, I agree. Once I learned about that, I was like, okay, that makes a little more sense what they're asking for the upgrade. So you have that, and that's coming this month in just a couple weeks, and we'll obviously talk about that here on GameFace when it comes out, or maybe a little bit before. But other sort of new games that are coming out, oddly enough, what has turned into the biggest one, Matt, is Deathloop. So this is a PS5 exclusive. This is not coming to PS4. It is coming to PC, but it has a year's exclusivity on PlayStation 5. This is typically...
So is it not coming to PC until a year later, or do you mean just console exclusivity?
No, it's not coming to PC until a year later. Yeah. It's only going to be available for PlayStation for a year. This is not typically the game that you would be like, oh, big console exclusive. In fact, it doesn't look like it's a PS5 exclusive at all. It looks like it's a PS4 exclusive.
It's on PC at launch.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. It's just console exclusive.
Oh. I just read a story that said it has a year's exclusive.
It's a year exclusive console. Yeah, so it's not going to go to Xbox for a year.
Vincent, you might want to check on that, man. Because I literally just looked this up this morning.
Not going to PC would be a very weird deal to strike. But then Sony is paying attention to PC now. I don't know. Yeah. Andy T. Monahan makes a good point. GTA 5 is going to be the big PS5 game of the fall. The PS5 version of GTA 5.
The one that'll sell the most?
Yeah.
Sure. Will it, though?
Yeah.
You think people are going to buy it again, Matt?
I think it's going to be the number one selling PS5 game for the year.
Wow. Call of Duty will outsell it easily. I think Call of Duty will outsell it.
I don't know.
Because it's only for PS5, and there's only going to be, maybe 20 million consoles out by the end of the year. They're at 10 now.
On PS5, I think it's going to be the top PS5 seller.
Really?
Yeah.
More than Call of Duty?
On the system, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, obviously Call of Duty will sell more total because they're on everything. But if you just take PS5 sales, I think GTA 5 is going to outsell Call of Duty. I can't explain to you why, but I do think that is what's going to happen, just because that's just what GTA 5 does. I don't know why.
I'm wondering if Vincent checked in on that. Says the same day. It's crazy how much bad reporting there is out there, Matt. I literally just read a story this morning saying that it did not come to PC until a year later. I'll have to remember not to use that source again because they gave me bad information. But so, according to Vincent, it is launching day and date on PC. So that's not even a PS5 exclusive, really. Just because you can't play it on PS4.
Right.
It's a limited console.
It's a console exclusive. That's pretty much what things mean these days.
Yeah. But this is what we're trying to hang our hat on, is my point, for PlayStation 5.
I'm not even putting my hat near that. I don't care about that.
I do. I think it looks cool, but it's not a system seller. It's not going to convince people to. But do you need one at this point? Because people are just buying PS5 just because.
Yeah, the system sells just fine.
Like,
that's not a concern right now.
And then another game that maybe will come out this year, Little Devil Inside.
All right, that thing.
That game has been in development for like almost 8 years now.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in a while.
No, not since the debut. And I was impressed by what they showed at the PS5 debut. But we haven't seen anything since. All that's happened really was there was a big controversy over one of the enemies in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, and last I heard, they were going to address that, but they haven't even given any news since that. Like, that's the last news we got, that they were going to change those enemies.
And then we didn't see.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
So who knows what's happening with
I think this game does look interesting, but at this point, its chances of coming out in 2021
I don't
are
expect
slim
this
to
year.
none.
No, I don't expect it this year.
So, Matt, have we reached a place with the PlayStation 5 where it doesn't matter what games it has?
We seem to, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of games. If you haven't played anything on PS5 yet, like there's a lot to play.
Well, I mean, there's Demon's Souls and Ratchet,
and tons of other things. Like even if you're just replaying Spider-Man to see what it looks like on the new system, which I did, replaying your older stuff, your favorite older stuff again, like play God of War again in 60 frames a second. Like, it's great.
Yeah,
like,
it does make a difference.
I played Horizon again. Like, I didn't mean to, but I did. it happens. It's fun to see. That's one of the nice things about the backwards compatibility and the support for the next gen patching is like, it's like these old favorites are like kind of new again a little bit.
Yeah,
it's great. Like,
it was funny. I was watching.
Is it a reason to drop $500 on a console? No, but it helps.
Yeah. It's funny how standards are different between console gamers and PC players, because I was watching Jack Frags play the Halo Infinite technical test, and it's locked at 60 frames per second on PC, and he was just raging about it.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, this feels so slow and so sluggish. I'm like, bro, we would kill for 60 frames a second.
Overwatch players play at 144.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
I remember I gave my girlfriend my gaming laptop so she could play Overwatch on vacation, and she's like, yeah, I didn't really play it because I could only get it to run at like 60.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did you want it to run at? She's like, 140? I'm like, oh, God. Like, okay. Like, this is a world I'm not associated with.
It's a different standard. Yeah, for sure. But you're right. Like, playing God of War at that frame rate feels like night and day difference. And it already felt great before, but now it feels even better. And it is an amazing game worth playing more than once as well. Do you think Xbox could get away with this, though, Matt?
Well, no, because I don't think they have the same kind of library of exclusives, but at the same time, they do have a more robust backwards compatibility. You know what I played this week? Ninja Gaiden 2.
Yeah.
From the 360. Not the remaster, because the remaster one sucks. It's the stupid PS3 one with all the gore removed.
Right.
So I played the backwards compatible 360 version, and it's great. It's the only way to play that game correctly now.
Yeah.
Like, you want to play the real Ninja Gaiden 2, you have to play it backwards compatible on Xbox One.
That's crazy.
Because it runs well now. Like, that's the thing. Is like that stairs.
And that
thing,
matters a lot.
It runs
fine.
That it doesn't chug down like 15 frames a second anymore. It's great.
Yeah. Sometimes that chug helped you in that game.
Oh, it did. Yeah. It was. It's like those old shoot 'em ups where it's just like it slows down when the boss does that big attack, but you need it to slow down when that. But
it's funny.
It's like emulating old arcade games and stuff like that, like those like Raiden and those like scrolling shooters where it's like
when all the bullets show up on screen.
When the bullet hell thing, and it's like, oh, you needed that. Like they designed that with that in mind.
It helps you maneuver through like the bullets.
And you do it at full speed, and it's just like, we're all dead.
Yeah, I do feel like right now PlayStation and Xbox are kind of playing by separate rules.
A little bit, yeah.
Because Series is still selling,
but
very
they
well.
are both kind of coasting here a little bit. Like.
It's not like it's been a smorgasbord of software for Xbox
Like when
Series.
you sit back, I've even seen stuff on Twitter and like various forums where it's like when people are saying like, hey, if you had to list like the top 5 biggest releases of 2021 so far, what would they be?
Yeah.
And like people disagree. They have a lot of different ideas. It kind of depends what you like the most. Like people generally agree that like, Ratchet, it's about it. Like,
I mean,
I would consider Metroid Dread to be a big one, coming up.
Yeah.
But like some people wouldn't because they don't care about that. It's 2D and it's a Switch game, or like it's not one of the big 3 Nintendo franchises for them, so they don't consider it a major release in the same way as like a Pokemon. Or whereas I keep forgetting there's a Pokemon game coming out this year. It's
if it does.
Yeah, I think. The remakes will. Yeah, for sure.
Because they're easy.
Obviously, Arceus is.
God knows when that's coming out.
That's next year. I'm sure.
You think it'll make it next year?
Yeah, you don't put those out that close to the remakes.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, do you think it'll be done in time for next year?
Oh yeah, I think it'll be early next year. I think first half of next year for Arceus.
They didn't show it at E3.
They didn't show much at E3.
That's true.
They didn't even show Pokemon at E3.
That's true. Yeah.
Pokemon seems to have their own verve these days. Pokemon Company will do its own directs. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I feel like we've seen kind of a change. I do not remember another console that got by like this since maybe the PlayStation 2. Mm-hmm. But people were buying that for it to be their DVD player.
Yeah, it was a multimedia.
And the first console really to do that. And so it was a thing. Like the launch lineup for PS2 was pretty terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like as I recall, certainly for the early part of the PS2's life, the most commonly purchased software to go with it was the Matrix.
Right.
You bought that and you bought the DVD
and
of the Matrix.
I did that. I got the Matrix DVD with my PS2. That's pretty funny to think about. Long-term implications of this rough first full year, do you think there will be any?
Nothing.
Me either.
I mean, if the systems weren't selling well, that would be different. But they're selling faster than they can make them.
Yeah.
And people seem pretty happy overall. Obviously we have a problem where we don't have something to talk about every week about in terms of new releases. But if I was just sitting back playing whatever I wanted to play, I'd be pretty happy right now.
Yeah.
I am pretty happy right now in terms of that. I played through Ninja Gaiden 2 and I was happy with that. I enjoyed it. I played it on this system that runs it better than I've ever played it before. So I'm cool with that. Is I try not to think about the cost benefit ratio there, but eventually I'll play Forza Horizon when that comes out, and I'll be happy I have a Series X to do that with. It's
I feel like Xbox is getting by because of Game Pass.
It helps, for sure.
Because you're right. Microsoft hasn't exactly released a ton of software for Series either.
No, but there's always something to do.
But people aren't complaining, right? No. There's always something to do. Whereas on PS5, people are complaining.
And it's always sort of a nice little, like I was already interested in the Ascent, which we'll talk about later. But like, I was like, oh yeah, I want to try these. I wonder which platform I should get it on. And I saw it was on Game Pass, and it was like this little shot of serotonin. It's like, oh cool, I don't even have to pay for that. I just play it. I just do that. It's already set for me. All I have to do is install it. Like,
the brain releases that little squirt of serotonin,
a little bit of dopamine out of there. It's just like it's like, how can you not like have a fondness for that console when it does that all the time?
That's true.
It's kind of a dirty trick, but it works.
It works on me. As I said when we started discussing this topic, my Series is my daily driver now. Yeah. I turned on my PS5 last night.
You know what I installed?
For the first time since I basically finished for good Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the PS5 on to play Great Ace Attorney because I got that on.
You got it on PlayStation.
And I showed a friend Disco Elysium, which, again, for me, one of the biggest releases of the year, which is saying something about the year.
It is.
But I mean, I love that game, but it is just kind of a final cut re-release of a game that's 2 years old that very few people care about other than me. It's basically a story you're being told. It's brilliant. Like it's brilliant and one of the most like uncomfortably honest games I've ever played in terms of like the weird ways we argue with ourselves. Yeah. But like it's not Horizon.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But like in terms of just like turning things on and like kind of daily like gaming whatever, that's the Xbox. You know what I installed last night? Saints Row 4. Just why not? Why not do that again?
I could give you a couple reasons why not.
Oh, I love Saints Row 4.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite one.
I mean, I could probably agree with that. I have a tendency with that franchise to play it for like 8 hours. And I go in and fiddle around with it for a while, and then I stop.
I have played all the Saints, except for the first one. I played Saints Row 2, 3, and 4 3 times each.
Wow. You may be the biggest fan of Saints Row.
I am not. Believe me. Saints Row has a very dedicated fan base. But I have played those games numerous times.
Interesting.
I love the Saints Row games.
I was not aware of that.
And I love that they get better. I love how they get weirder as you go. There is one, however, I have never like fully completed, and that's Gat Out of Hell.
Okay.
Because I don't like Johnny Gat as a character very much.
Well, that makes sense.
One of the big mysteries of Saints Row for me, and sometimes I wonder if it's a running gag, is that everyone loves Johnny Gat and constantly talks about how awesome he is. And I'm just like, he is nothing. Like, he is such a stupid character. Like, the fact that everybody loves him so much is
an indictment on our society.
So weird that it's almost annoying to me. And like part of it is I'm like, is that the joke?
Right.
Is the joke that he's an obnoxious dipshit
like,
and everybody
trolling? Yeah.
It's like a commentary on like how like everybody like the popular guy is like always the biggest asshole kind of thing. I'm like, maybe like with that series it might be like, but then but that's the kind of thing I like about Saints Row is like it makes me think about stuff like that, and on the surface it looks like it's just this big dumb explosion of a nonsense game that's like trying to ride GTA's coattails, but it's more than that, and it's too bad that Agents of Mayhem seems to have sunk the IP for good.
Let's take a look at chat and see what they're saying about this. As I said a few episodes ago, we want to get you guys involved in the actual show a little more. So let's do that. Nox Aeternitatis. PS5 has been best 6 months for a PlayStation. Other gens had nothing.
There've been a lot of... What were the first 6 months of PS3 releases?
Oh, gosh.
Can you even remember that? I can't. Like, the launch had, like, Resistance and that terrible Gundam game I ended up having to review. And then nothing, the first half years of systems tend to be nothing after the launch. Like they front load that stuff, and then you get nothing until the end of the next year.
Yep. Cinetag, biggest revelation for me with Game Pass on PC, never had an Xbox, is to discover and enjoy multiple games I normally would be skeptical to buy. Yeah. I mean, it's a great sampler. Yeah. I mean, that's why we do Game Pass or fail.
And maybe I'm a fringe case, but it has converted me to purchasing some stuff that I like. Like I bought Spiritfarer because I got it on Game Pass and fell in love with it. I'm like, I want to support this game and buy it. Mm-hmm. So I did. And that, so job well done on that one, Microsoft. You got
so it's working to some extent.
Yeah, they paid the developer to put it on Game Pass, and then I paid the developer because I liked the game so much I wanted it in case it ever leaves Game Pass.
Yeah,
like that's I'm hook, line, and sinker on a couple of these things.
Yeah. It is a great sampler, and I think that's why I use my Series X all the time, because it's like this week there's nothing to play. So you're like, oh, I'll poke around on Game Pass.
And it's like, I don't know what that is. I'll try that. Yeah. Even if you hate it, it's like, who cares? Like,
and it's buoyed it for its first year, and it's not going to stop.
No.
It's going to continue to buoy series consoles for ever.
And I'm still, I'm looking there thinking, like, I can, do I buy Forza Horizon 5?
Yeah.
Like, do I value the extra stuff that much? Not really.
No. I don't get into any of that stuff. Like, I just played the freaking game.
Like, I like some of the cars you get through some of the expansion pack things, but it's like you can just get this for like $1.99 separately if you don't have to go all in.
You're going to find a car you're going to like in the game anyway.
I'm probably just going to drive the car I own,
right?
Like most of the time.
That's what I always do too. I always drive the car that I actually own.
And eventually I got to upgrade to like the exotic
when
stuff
you can't
to
compete
be competitive.
Anymore.
Yeah, but like. By that point, you've won like 14 Ferraris and like the various race wheel things when you level up, and like who needs the DLC at that point?
Yep. Okay, so anyway, that's the latest on the PlayStation 5. I mean, I know you said that you would tell people to get it. Like, I would tell people to not kill themselves to get it.
Oh yeah, I would. I mean, but if you can,
if one falls into your lap, why not?
Simple strategies are just like, check every Thursday morning at Target. Like, they tend to get stuff or drop on the Best Buy, at least around here, gets a drop Tuesday mornings usually.
Yep.
Just check. Don't make it your life, but like poke in. Maybe you get lucky. You know?
Yep. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Annapurna Interactive. And you're probably sitting there saying, what the hell is Annapurna Interactive? Well, they are an indie publisher, although I would argue at this point they're kind of skirting the line between indie and like AA at this point. Another game that I was kind of excited for that was supposed to be a PS5 exclusive is a game called Stray. It is a game where you play as a cat. And when we got the original trailer for it, we were kind of confused. We were like, what is this game? Is it just like an adventure game where you just play as this cat that wanders around?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was your cat wandering around a dystopia kind of thing.
But we didn't know exactly, like, how is it going to play? How is it going to work? This week, Annapurna, and I hadn't realized that it was still coming, kind of did its big E3 press conference, and it showed the first gameplay of Stray. And Matt, this game blows my mind. Have you watched this yet?
Yeah. Because the thing, like, because how people talking about is like how like the cat like teams up with a robot and puts on like a robo vest and talks to me. Like, I knew that about this game already, and I don't know why. I didn't understand why that was news to people, because I knew that's what this was about.
It was news to me. I was not aware of that.
I mean, obviously I didn't see footage of it, but I definitely knew. As soon as the robot popped up, I'm like, oh, that's right, because the cat puts a robot on, and that's how you talk to people and stuff.
Yeah, it's
like I knew that was what was. Maybe I read an interview or something.
It's like a little translator. I would also like to point out that our new lower thirds are showing their strength right now, because you wouldn't be able to see the cat. You would not be able to see the cat with our old lower thirds. So.
Now, I will say this, like, I am a little concerned about this game in the sense that it is absolutely going to be sad at some point.
They can't kill the cat.
Not kill the cat, but I bet they'll kill other cats. I bet they'll do other, like, sad things. I bet the robot dies at the end or something. Like, this thing is...
Better the robot than the cat.
This thing is designed to break your heart. I promise you. Like, this is some Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian shit.
Matt, the animation in this game is, like, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, how... Do you think they put a cat in a mocap studio with little balls on him and let him run around?
I bet they did some of that, yeah. And I bet, the other thing, and, the old Disney style, you take footage and you can rotoscope it if you want, or you just have cats in the office. Like, there's nothing better than animating from life.
Yeah,
and, like,
seeing them.
You have everybody encourage, having office cats. I mean, obviously, if you work in this game, you couldn't be allergic, but like, or maybe you have like a little cat room you can go in and like sketch things, or there's a lot of ways you can do that. I mean, artists are very talented people.
They are. That's why they're artists. But this takes it to another level, man. Like, that cat acts so real. And then there's all these just kind of tertiary things that it does. Like, it just randomly walks up to humans and will, like, brush their legs. And, like, will preen. They can lay down and go to sleep just like a cat. Like, this game went from, that seems interesting, to like way up on my radar after, and it's only a 5-minute demo. And look, you can scratch the couch.
Stop.
Exactly, stop. This game looks awesome. And as Matt mentioned, you get that little device that straps onto the cat, and it basically allows the cat to talk to everybody. It like translates like the cat language. Like,
which you'd think would have been a bigger societal event in a way. I was like,
maybe that's what brought about the apocalypse, Matt. Talking cats.
Being able to talk to. I mean, there is the graffiti that says like "Rip humans."
Right.
Like, maybe that's like part of it.
You
like,
think the cats can write graffiti?
Maybe.
With no opposable thumbs.
Yeah, Mark Echo's Getting Up gets the stealth sequel it deserves. Yeah.
And then, like, there's combat in the game, too.
Well, there's a driving sequence there.
Like, the little thing on his back will, like, I don't know if it shocks. Like,
yeah, it looks like it has, like, an EMP or a zap thing.
Yeah,
on
some
it,
kind of a zap feature. And, like, it's the cat versus the rats. Like, this is one of the most interesting games I've seen in a really, really long time. Like, I had no idea how they would make a game where you play as a cat interesting. Because generally cats just like lay around. They sleep like 18 hours out of each day. They don't do a whole lot. But yeah, there's like that ultraviolet thing that the cat has. And then you're saving the robots from the rats. It's bizarre, but awesomely bizarre. And then here's the caveat. They show this game. It looks absolutely awesome. I'm like, oh my God, it's supposed to come out this year. And they're like, oh no, it's not. It was delayed. And it's not coming until next year now. So that was another supposed to be a console exclusive for PlayStation 5 that no longer is a console exclusive is no longer coming out this year. That's another game that was on the docket that was shown at the initial PS5 debut. That's not going to make it in its first year. Man, it just seems like PlayStation had none of its ducks in a row.
They are apparently making the backpacks. Like for
real cats.
You're going to be able to have a real cat backpack for your cat.
That is so awesome.
My cats are not going to accept that. That's not.
No. Dude, I haven't had a cat since mine died, and it just devastated me, and I never wanted to get another one. So I haven't got one, but my cat, you could not put anything on that cat. Yeah. It would lose its mind.
Yeah, I mean, mine, I think Rampage would just sort of fall over and like refuse to move. Luna would roll until she either got it off or like hit a wall. And Ozzel, my old cat that died, like she, I put harnesses on. I tried to like take her outside and like take her out to see, and she and if I took her outside in the harness, she'd just fall over and wouldn't move. She'd just be like. It was like a I don't know, like a hedgehog playing dead or something. It was like and I could drag her around like she just wouldn't move, and so I just would take her back in and take the thing off. Like, yeah, some cats do like to walk around and have a harness and see things and look around, but like I have never had a cat that wanted to have anything to do with any of that.
I put a leash on the cat I was talking about once before, and I picked her up and like carried her out, and then I got her outside and I put her down on the ground and I started walking and I just started dragging her along the sidewalk. Like she was not having it, man.
And you're just like, oh, the fur is never going to be clean if I keep doing this, like
cats are a trip. And that's why I'm really excited for this game, like because it appears that they've managed to encapsulate that into a game. Like the personality of the cat, I was like, it's one of the coolest things I've seen so far for this gen. Oh, yeah. This new gen. Like, and I never dreamed that I would think that a game about a cat would be that.
Like, this game has always been pretty high on my radar. I thought we were going to get something special out of it.
It looks like we're getting it. And if they want to keep delaying
I must have read interviews at that E3.
Yeah, you must have.
Because like, otherwise, I don't...
Because everybody else was like, what?
Everyone else seemed very surprised by a lot of this. I'm just like, no, it's a dystopian world with like robot people, and you get a little robot that lets you talk to things. Like, I knew that.
People don't read anymore, Matt.
I guess.
If it's not in a video, people don't know about it. That's just kind of how it is.
It's not a movie made about it. It's not worth knowing with you people, is it?
Yeah. So that's a big game coming from Annapurna. And then they actually have like a lot of big stuff. We've talked about this game before, but Matt and I are both excited for Solar Ash. They showed a bunch...
what's that a sequel? You
asked me
the Zelda game with the weird name. Brave Fencer Musashi. No, it's like that, right?
It is, yeah. This game looks awesome, too.
Hyper Light Drifter.
Hyper Light Drifter. Yeah, this game looks awesome, too. If you liked Hyper Light Drifter, this is a little different.
Yeah, but it's the same universe, I believe.
It is, and they also said during the presentation that their number one focus for the entire game is traversal, which was a big part of Hyper Light Drifter and is a big part of the DNA of this studio that makes these games. What are they called? It's not Asobi, is it? No, Asobi makes the Astrobot games.
Yeah, I don't remember who makes these.
Yeah, but
I bet Vincent will say in a second.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get in the chat and let us know. But this game looks awesome. What they showed of the game looks awesome at the event. So that's just one of them. Says it's a PC exclusive or a
Sony PC.
Sony and PC exclusive for the fall. And this is also on my fantasy team, by the way.
Right.
And so hopefully it does make it.
Heart Machine, that's right.
Heart Machine.
I knew they had a weird name.
Yeah, and so hopefully it does actually make it.
It's always interesting when you're not sure which is the developer name, which is the game name.
Yeah.
Like if Heart Machine was a game made by a development team called Solar Ash, I'd believe that too.
I totally believe it. That's true. So it has that game. It has Stray. It has this game coming before the end of the year. It also has another game that I've been tracking called 12 Minutes, which is it
pops up every couple of E3s. And
it does, but it's coming out this month. It is a point-and-click adventure game that seems to take place in one room. It follows a husband and a wife reliving the same 12 minutes of their lives over and over again. It stars Willem Dafoe and a bunch of big-time actors are lending their talents to this.
It's a big deal experimental thing, basically.
Yeah, and as you said, it has been in development for a long, long time. And I don't know why, because it seems like it's a very simple game.
I don't think it's simple at all.
Really?
No.
Where do you think the complexity is coming from?
Thousands of possible
all the
outcomes.
Permutations and combinations.
Yeah, like every single thing you do in this can change everything, and it all
trickles down.
Yeah, it's just the story branch chart for this game must be the size of a whale.
Because the crux of it is the police show up at your door.
Yeah.
And then once the cop shows up at your door, that's the point where it starts reliving it over and over again.
And this is sort of like an advanced version of like those like dinner date games that were popular in the mid 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when you sort of like do whatever you want. We used to do that in the game lab at G4. Like Ryan Stevens would play that a lot and just like see how fast he could make because it was like a dinner party or something. You basically went over to this couple's place and like you could interact with them however you wanted, and like if you said the wrong things, they'd just kick you out of the apartment. And Ryan Stevens used to try to see how fast he could get kicked out. And I think his record was that they didn't let him in the door. He said something really obscene as soon as they opened the door, and they're like, maybe you should leave and just close the door. So his record was like 5 seconds or something, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing. But this is like way, way more advanced. This is like trying to present that in terms of a dramatic story presentation, whereas the previous games of that nature were sort of toys.
Yep. And so those are kind of the big games coming from Annapurna in the near future. There's another one called The Artful Escape. And then they announced another game that's kind of this weird, like, build-your-own story game. Did you see that one? Did you watch this at all, like, their whole presentation?
I saw the Stray stuff because it popped up on Sifted later, but I didn't realize they actually did a
they did, like, a whole, like, E3, like, direct-type dealie.
Yeah, that never got around to my Twitter feed. You might want to work on that. But,
I would argue, though, that this
it's not like I don't follow game people.
Yeah.
Like no one...
Yeah. I would argue that Annapurna, though, is one of the rising indie developers. They seem to have a keen eye for interesting projects, or it seems to have a keen eye for interesting projects. I don't see a lot of just like, here's another 2D platformer, here's another side-scrolling shooter stuff coming from this publisher. And it also appears that they're willing to dedicate a big budget to a game like with Stray. So it's certainly a publisher to keep an eye on as you go forward. And keeping in mind on Sifted, you can always check out publishers. We have publisher pages. So if you go like to the game page for Stray, it'll list the publisher there, Annapurna. If you click on that, it'll take you to a list of all Annapurna's games. You can do that for any publisher or any developer at sifted.net. Again, stuff that Sifted does that other sites don't do. So anyway, Annapurna should be on your radar. Anytime you see a new game from them, you should probably at least check out the first trailer to see if it's something that might interest you, because they are really starting to crank out some interesting stuff. At least stuff that's impressing me anyway. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about the only game worth playing this week. Really the only game worth playing this week.
I mean, I would say it was also worth playing The Forgotten City, but it was hard to justify $30 for a Skyrim mod.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially because I played the mod of it before, so I don't know how different this. Clearly, it's not in the Elder Scrolls universe anymore because it's its own game. But I am curious about it. But I didn't want to throw $30. If it had been on Game Pass, we'd be talking about it right now. But like $30 for that seemed a little steep to me.
Yep. A lot of people were disappointed in Cyberpunk 2077. This is a cyberpunk game. It is not it is 3D. It's modeled in 3D.
It's Unreal Engine.
Yeah, and it's set from an isometric perspective, like across the top. But it is really like a twin-stick shooter.
Yeah, it's a twin-stick shooter action RPG dungeon crawler.
Yep, and the setup is you are in a cyberpunk world. The mega corporation that has been running the world is going defunct. No one really knows what's going on. They've stopped sort of handling their responsibilities, and
you're in an arcology, which is like a self-contained, basically a self-contained biome city, like what used to build in SimCity back in the day. And basically, the arcology defaults. And it means nobody's running it anymore. Yeah. Like, basically, it's gone bankrupt and no one's steering the ship anymore, so to speak. And basically the criminal organizations, one of which you work for, decide to band together and save it so everyone doesn't die.
Right.
And you're kind of working for them to sort of figure out, and there's sort of a power struggle over that, and that's what you're caught in the middle of.
Yep. And it is a twin-stick shooter. Matt, the first thing that struck me about this game is that I was struggling to be accurate with the aiming. Do you have any problems with it?
No.
Okay. That's just me, I guess.
Somewhat. I mean, to be fair, I mean, there is an automatic sort of, the longer you hold the auto fire down, the less accurate you'll get. So you do need to use bursts a little bit. And then there is one of the skill, when you go into the guy who modifies your body, like you spend skill points when you level up, you can upgrade a skill that lets you be more accurate.
I've leveled up a bunch of skills.
So my accuracy thing is like 10 or something.
So does it just increase the auto aiming?
It increases the speed at which your aim recenters when you take your finger off the trigger.
Okay.
So like, whereas maybe it would take a couple seconds without any of that, like now I can fire full auto for like, a few seconds and then just like take it off, fire again, and I'm back to full accuracy.
Oh, okay.
Like it's and the gun I'm using is pretty accurate too. So like it varies by weapon, but like upgrading that stat has definitely been my priority.
Well, Matt, I would tell you that I would go back and do that, but I'm not, because I played this game for about 2 hours and I got tired of it pretty quickly. You've played it much longer than I have.
Yeah, I've played this for closer to 6 hours, even though I do agree with you that it does not evolve past about the 2 hour mark. Once you learn how everything works and get one of each like type of item to equip, like you've got weapons, you've got grenades, you've got active powers like
supers, kind of.
Yeah, like little abilities you can use to help you out.
Those are assigned to the shoulder buttons.
And then you have two passive augments that are sort of, I have one that gives me more health and one that like makes my like ability stuff recharge faster. And then you have obviously your loot, your armor and stuff, but like that's about it.
And the loot and the armor stuff is pretty extensive as well.
Yeah, there's tons of weird stats, and you really got to choose what kind of damage you want to protect yourself from and what stats you want to upgrade. Like there's a lot here in terms of that. And I have found, certainly I'm far enough in the game that I am finding like I'm hitting a point where I have to change up my weapons and armor and tactics if I run into a different kind of enemy. Like I started running into robots, and before that I'd been fighting humans and like these monsters, right? And I ran into robots and I was not killing them fast, so I had to switch up all my stuff and kind of equip some stuff that I had really powerful armor, but I had to switch to stuff that protected against EMP and energy more, because the physical damage was not a factor anymore.
It's not an easy game. I did die a few times in the first couple hours.
Well, here's the thing, like so. Like there's a weird thing here where like if you go into the quests, right? Like there's main quests and side quests. If you go into the side quests, it'll tell you what the recommended level is. The recommended level for a quest only refers to what level you would need to be to do the actual actions required to complete the quest. It does not take into account the areas you will have to go through to get to those things. So there's like a level 2 quest, a side quest I got the first time I got to the town hub, and I'm like, okay, level 2. I'll do that before I progress the story, because that's level 2. I'm like, level 5. That's great. I go to where I'm supposed to go, and I can't get into that part of the world yet. So I'm like, well, if it's level 2, and it's only because all I need to do is go talk to a guy and get a thing and bring it back.
Right.
But like, I had to go through 2 more story missions before I could access that area of the world. Or like, another thing told me, oh, it's like level 4 to do this or whatever. I'm like, go in, and after you do the part of the thing, suddenly the quest upgrades to like level 22 recommended, because then you have to go into a much more dangerous area. I didn't realize that. I walked in, the guy one-shotted me, and I'm like, what the hell was that? Like, so like the recommended level stuff on the side quests, like, do not take into account where you're going to end up going. Like,
right.
You might end up, like, sure, the level recommended might be like 10, but you might have to walk through an area with like level 25 guys to get to that part. So you're probably best off saving side quests until you just sort of come around to them.
Now's a good time to bring up that there is no sprint in this game.
Yeah, I have rarely played a game that desperately needs a sprint button more than this.
So like, you just end up diving all over the place.
You dodge roll everywhere, and you can only dodge roll 3 times before you recharge. You have to recharge a little bit. It's not too long. There is a skill that makes that recharge faster.
Yeah,
but
that
like,
was one of the first things I upgraded.
Right, but what I ended up doing was sort of like timing my rolls, so I never quite ran out of roll.
Right.
But then
that
required too much concentration, so it became annoying to have to do that. She just needs to be able to move, at least in areas with no combat. I need to be able to move like double speed.
Yeah,
like there's so much traverse, and eventually you do get fast travel. You can take a hover train from the main areas to each of the main locations in the world, and eventually you unlock the ability to take a cab. Like, it costs like 1,000 credits, which is not much by that point in the game, and you can go pretty much anywhere, which is fine. But like, I just really need to be able to move a little. She moves just slow enough to be annoying.
Yeah,
it's like if she moved 10% faster, I probably wouldn't be complaining about it right now. But it's just slow enough that it's like, there has to be. Like, early on, I kept pressing everything. I'm like, there must be a sprint button there somewhere, right?
Nope.
I'm like, nope, just keep throwing grenades.
I just kept clicking the sticks.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just a habit.
Right, because it's like, how does this not have a sprint in it? But so yeah, and like the gunplay's. I think the gunplay's fine. Like, I enjoy the kind of the shooting and stuff. It's okay. My main thing is, like, once you've seen sort of the base level, it's like a lot of these dungeon crawlers, it's all the same stuff in terms of what you're doing. You're going to a thing, kill the thing, pick up the thing, activate the thing, go to the next thing. Like, that's all it is. But the main thing, the big draw on this game, the thing that's kept me playing longer than I probably would have played normally, is I think this thing is gorgeous.
What you're seeing right now.
Like, this might be the best visual realization of a cyberpunk world I have ever seen in any
Those are
medium.
big words coming from
like,
Matt Kyle.
The art direction, and it's not like the graphical tech is like amazing right now, but
Yeah.
the art direction on this game is
legit.
Second to none.
Yeah.
Like, the detail in the street, in the just a little, like the shops and the clutter on the counters of the stores you're in, like the detail level. Whoever did the art, this team is made up of a bunch of veterans of like some pretty big AAA companies. Like, I will be bringing the art direction up on this game up for another 10 years.
Wow.
Like, this, if we're still doing this in our mid-50s at the end of the decade, this will be on my nominee list for best art direction of the 2010s.
Wow.
I promise you. This is so much better than anything Cyberpunk 2077 did in terms of realizing this world. And it's a deeper, harder Cyberpunk world in the sense that, like,
look how cluttered the world is.
It's far in the future. There's
how many
aliens
people
everywhere.
there are there?
There's aliens everywhere. It's a world that has space travel, like interplanetary space travel. So it's not the kind of the 5 hours into the future thing that Cyberpunk 2077 is doing. But this is just astounding. And one of the reasons I keep playing this game is because I want to see what happens next. Like, I want to see what is next in the environment. Like, they keep showing me stuff that is just like fascinating to see how this city kind of works together in these like huge, like, high scope things. And I love it. I love all the visual stuff in this game to death. And like, the worst thing is, like, the quests are boring, and the characters are nothing. Like, the story is the most like by the numbers cyberpunk nonsense you could possibly imagine. But the people who did the visuals and design, like, I would put concept art of this game on my wall. Like, I love the look of this game, like, in a way that I mean, it's basically this and Ratchet are up there for my favorite graphics of the year.
I I mean, there's a little bit of cheating going on because, the camera's fixed. You can't go into a first-person camera and kind of look at the details in the game and
but I don't consider that cheating at all. Also, it does have like cutscenes where they pull the camera down and do stuff. Like there's some detail in there when they need it to be.
Yeah,
it's the Unreal Engine. There's it can do it.
I'm just wondering if like the character models that they know are going to be in cinematics, they add more detail to, and then the rest of the people, if you actually zoomed in on them, if they were really low
that's
detail.
true of every video game ever made. So
yeah, but other games that allow you to look up close at everything all the time, that stuff is typically modeled a little bit. I don't know. The bottom line is it looks gorgeous. Yeah. That's really what matters. And you're right. It is a beautiful game. But I just got tired of playing it, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, and look, I don't think you're the only one because the last story-based achievement I unlocked, 4.2% of players had unlocked it.
Wow.
Like, so clearly you are not the only one who stopped around the 3 hour mark. And I would have too if it didn't look like this. Like if I didn't love this aesthetic so much, I would also have stopped by now.
And I do. I like it as well.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I almost wish Cyberpunk 2077 looked more like this than it does.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed playing Cyberpunk a lot more than I enjoyed playing this.
I find it hard to compare the two just because they're so different.
They are really different. Yeah. I'm just saying in general.
But like this is astounding. To like the work and the detail and also there's a whole codex where you can like see all the stuff about the world building is far more interesting than anything that's actually happening to the characters or in the story.
Yeah.
Like it's I would be more willing to play like a tabletop RPG set in this world than continue to finish this game. I guess. Like there's something amazing here in terms of this sort of world they've created. I would love to see them expand on this world and make a different kind of game in it.
Yep.
Well,
the good news about
this don't throw this world away. Like, you have something very special here. I would say take this and set more games in and don't stick to this gameplay model, but do stick to what you've made in terms of the aesthetics here.
And the good news about this game is that it's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And it's only available right now for Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. But if you have Game Pass, you can check it out for free.
Yeah.
And give it a whirl. And I think most people will probably agree with us that the gameplay just doesn't evolve enough. Like, I got tired of it at 2 hours, and I come in here to talk to you, and you're like, oh, then you experienced it all.
Yeah, it doesn't
evolve.
There's no secrets left for you in terms of what the gameplay is, and like there's some interesting like things with it. I do like the cover thing they do. Like that's.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. So there's a cover system.
Yeah, it's a weird way they do it, but it works. Where like. Because at first you don't really understand what they're doing because the right if you aim with the right stick and you pull the right trigger to shoot, but if you hold the left trigger you aim up, you aim kind of above where you're normally shooting. I'm like, what is that for? And later it becomes like because when you start fighting enemies with guns, they can just rip you apart if you're in the open.
Yeah.
If you hit B, which is duck, you duck behind. You'll crouch. If you're behind an object, you're under cover. If you hold the left trigger, you can shoot over that cover in complete safety.
Yep. And then there's another reason why they did it too, and that's because this is an isometric game that has height.
Yeah.
So people can go up and down stairs, and so if an enemy is
up the
above
stairs,
you, is above the stairs, you can also squeeze that trigger to aim higher to be able to hit them.
Although you do run into the problem that there's no way to do that down. As far as I can
you're
find.
right.
Like, if someone's coming up the stairs at you, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you just run. You can't run either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can't run. Yeah, you can just roll.
You roll away.
And there's some stuff later. Like I have fought mechs the size of houses. At this point, the enemies get pretty. I mean, at one point, I did not realize. I thought the thing I ended up. I walked into the room with the thing. I thought it was a building. Like I didn't, and suddenly, it
you're
moves,
fighting the building,
and like this, the big red thing that indicates that like there's a cone of fire about to hit me pops up. I'm like, oh shit! Like it was like it was a shock, and it's like it's pretty hard to shock me in an isometric game.
Yes.
And I was very pleasantly surprised by some of that.
Well, the other part too is that like I think it's actually easy to surprise people in an isometric game.
Well, yeah, because you can't see anything.
You can't see anything. So they've included this, and you've probably seen it throughout all the B-roll. There's a waypoint system, and I just constantly have to ping it. It creates this. It's actually really cool how they did it.
So let me tell you something. I did not know that existed until I just saw that B-roll. I have not been having a problem finding my way around at all.
Well, I mean,
but like I saw that thing. I was like, is that
what? You tap up on the D-pad.
I did not know that. Well, you know why I don't know that? Because when it told me to do that, I did it and the game crashed. So I never did it again.
Oh man, I would have quit within an hour if I didn't.
I mean, I have not had a problem finding my way just with a little, objective markers.
Yeah,
like, it's pretty intuitive to me. But like,
yeah, because they're also
that would have helped a couple of times.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
admit.
I mean, it'll save you time, but if you're enjoying just absorbing the world and you want to wander around and check stuff out anyway, so it kind of works out for people like you. For me, as soon as I found that thing, I was using it because the worlds do kind of blend together. Some of the levels are really dark. It's hard to see where you can or cannot walk at times because sometimes there's like a pile of trash or whatever that'll block you from going or whatever. And so I use it all the time. I literally, like, every 10 or 15 seconds I'm tapping that thing to show me where I'm supposed to go because I'm just not quite as into the world as you are. I also feel like the world isn't all that interactive. Like, there's lots of creatures and stuff, but you can't really interact with a lot of them. And so after a while, I just started just kind of tapping it constantly to just figure out where I needed to go to get to my objective a little more quickly. I mean, I did enjoy the first couple hours moderately. If I had paid for this game, I'd be pretty bummed about it, though, to be honest.
I think it depends how much it is. I don't remember what the price is.
I don't either, because obviously it's on Game Pass.
Like, I would find this to be a very worthy $20 purchase.
Yeah, I'd pay $20 for it.
But beyond that...
And I'm guessing eventually it will come to PlayStation and Switch and whatever.
I don't know if it'll come to Switch.
I mean...
Maybe. I mean, it wouldn't look as good.
Yeah, but I think Switch can handle this game. It's not that high poly.
It's not high poly, it's particle and lighting.
Yeah.
Like, you would have to downgrade a whole bunch of stuff in this game.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening in terms of stuff on the screen.
But the thing about isometric fixed cameras is you can really control what you're drawing at one time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there'll be a Switch version of this.
We'll see. Definitely PlayStation version will come eventually. Is it worth the download? Let's do a live Game Pass or fail here on GameFace. Is it worth the download? Do you think people should check it out?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you have Series X, because it has the Series X enhancement, and I think it looks good. Like, there's elements of this game's bells and whistles that I think feel this gen.
Yeah, I like the way it looks. I like most of the writing.
It's not a huge download.
Yeah, and the story, it doesn't seem to branch. Like, when you talk to someone, you have like a bunch of options, but it doesn't seem to matter. Like, if you choose one of the other ones, like what that is going to change anything in the story or how characters interact with you or anything like that.
Yeah, there's no like choices in the story. You're just going through it.
You're just getting, there's a list so you can get more
Think of it like
information.
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Like, it's like that kind of game.
Yeah.
Or Diablo.
Yeah. It's an isometric action RPG, but instead of hacking and slashing, you're using guns. Yep. And there's lots of armor and stuff to upgrade. Some cool guns. And there are some cool abilities too. Like,
I can summon spider bots that charge and blow up at people now, and I can summon a robot with a rifle that there's like turrets you can drop. I mean, there's a lot of cool little abilities, and you're not just shooting stuff all the time. There's some strat, and I've had to use those because some of the bosses are hard. Like, I've been chewed up and spit out a couple of times.
I mean, I've died just to regular enemies a couple times.
Like, I've been like,
before I had mastered using cover, I died. But then that actually makes the game a lot easier once you figure out how the cover works.
I've been walking through like, standard, the story missions, and I get to a boss, and I'm just like, oh, what the hell? There's definitely a curve here and there. Nothing that I wasn't fully ready. Once I switched some equipment around, I was ready for it. But it's just like, you got to remember to upgrade regularly. You got to keep an eye on what you've picked up and whether it's better than what you have. Like, it's legit in terms of what they're making, but what they made, like everything of that kind, is sort of what it is, and it doesn't evolve beyond that because that's just not what those kinds of games do.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually recommend giving this a go on Game Pass because this week is just bereft of anything. At least play it for a couple hours and see if it's for you because there's nothing else to play.
Just take a look. Just run around the first city hub you're in. Yeah. Like, there's so much weird stuff to see in there and all the detail and everything. Like, I think it's very impressive to see all that. I was just very appreciative of the art team on this game for putting all that in there.
I mean, the only other option,
it doesn't actually. It just sort of sits there and you can look at it and do anything. But like, it's gorgeous work.
The only other option really for this week is like Death's Door. I haven't played that yet. Have you?
Yeah, I played some of it.
It's getting a lot of hype, but I haven't.
It's fine. It's another hack and slash thing. I mean, it's isometric as well. Like. It's cute. Like, I like the concept of it. It's like, oh, you're a raven or a crow or whatever that works for the death. You're harvesting souls or whatever. It's like, I don't know. It was cool. I played it for a while. I got killed. I got bored. I turned it off.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't grab
It's getting
me.
a lot of hype. People seem to like it.
Sure. It's like another Souls-like sort of thing, I guess, to some people. I don't know. I didn't.
Didn't resonate with you.
Not really.
As a big Souls fan.
Not really.
Huh. Okay. So, yeah, maybe you should play the Ascent then. I just saw lots of reports and tweets and stuff from other people that were really digging Death's Door, and so I figured I'd give you a holler and see if you would give it a go. I have not played it at all, so I can't really chime in.
I find it kind of mediocre.
Okay.
I'm sure. I know there's hype around it, but I didn't. I would put it in the Ascent at about at the same level for me.
Okay.
In terms of like how engaged I am with the gameplay, Death's Door has a lot more charm to it because it's not a super oppressive dystopia, but like I also liked the Ascent a little more just because it's mindless, because I could play it and not think about it.
You can.
So
that is one advantage.
Death's Door is a more involved
So if you're
game
coming
in
in
that
from the
regard.
pub late and you're drunk
Right.
and you want something to play, that's a good choice.
Yeah, I'll probably go back to Death's Door at some point, but I just was like, I don't feel like doing this right now.
Yeah. Not that we're going to be coming home from the pubs anytime soon here in the good old US of A.
No, probably
'Cause we're
not.
swimming in Rona soup again, which really sucks. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about PUBG, but not really. PUBG is the platform for which we are launching this topic off of. This week, it was announced that Players Unknown Battlegrounds will be going free to play soon. Not only that, it is also going to get some kind of a strange zombie variant. And what I realized...
Maybe tying in with that Dead Space thing.
Maybe...
Because that Dead Space, was that the Callisto Protocol? Right?
Yeah.
That's in the PUBG
universe. It is, yeah. And look, Crafton and the company behind PUBG, they were smart. All the money that they made, they're investing it in new games, new studios. They're just not there yet. Mm-hmm. And so they're still stuck with PUBG, trying to squeeze revenue from PUBG if it can. But what I realize is, one, PUBG has given in, and it's finally going to go free to play, which means that probably its player base is not where they would like it to be at this point. But then the other thing I realize is that it was the first real battle royale game that was a success, and it's now been lapped. Mm-hmm. It's so many other games have come out that do the formula so much better. And to be fair, a lot of the companies that came in and kind of stole the spotlight are big publishers. It's Activision with Call of Duty Warzone. It's EA with Apex Legends. These companies with really deep pockets that can afford to just throw a lot of money at something and see if it comes up double sixes or if it comes up snake eyes. They're like, whatever. This is just part of our R&D budget or whatever. Mm-hmm. And obviously Crafton isn't as big as those guys, and so it has to be a little smarter with how it spends its money. But, well, let's talk first of all, why do you think PUBG ended up becoming... Because now it's kind of the worst battle royale, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, I didn't think it was all that great to begin with. It was kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, I can see why people are playing this because it's this concept that hasn't been done anywhere else at this point. But then you actually start playing it and you're like, wait a minute, why are people playing this? That's how I was with PUBG. Mm-hmm. It's like, I was like, oh, it's 100 people and the last man standing. That sounds cool. And then I played it and I was like, this isn't cool. It's really janky and still to this day, it's janky.
Oh, yeah.
The movement and the clamoring, they, for whatever reason, they can't figure it out. And I think that's probably why it's lost its luster and it's been overtaken. It didn't
evolve. That's all.
It didn't evolve, right?
Yeah. And Fortnite had the monetary backing from Epic.
I didn't even bring up Fortnite
to turn himself into
which
something...
wasn't anything like this.
No,
until PUBG became popular.
Until we just let's throw that mode out there, and all of a sudden,
yeah. And
Fortnite never had anything like this mentioned ever until after it launched.
I mean, Fortnite was like a build your base and defend it,
it was
tower
a
defense game. Yeah, when Cliff worked on it.
Yeah, and then suddenly and it wasn't working very well. It was kind of meh, and no one really cared about it. And then there was oh, we're gonna put a battle royale mode out.
Yeah,
see what you think, and
the
rest was history, really.
Yep. So PUBG is now kind of the bottom of the barrel for battle royale shooters.
Yeah. Its advantage at the beginning was it's the only one doing it.
Yeah,
that was it. There was no competition for a while, and when competition finally showed up, it just
couldn't hang.
It ate it for lunch. That was all there was to it.
Do you think it's just a lack of investment by
I don't know. Like they, I don't know whether it's.
Well, at first it was just one dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's just the one guy, but like, it's probably just an economy of scale. It's just like, they don't, the people making this game do not have the resources to compete with an Epic or any of the other AAA, or an Apex Legends or whatever. Where do you even start if you're a small team of?
You had a huge head start. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, you can only do so much when you're a few people like making a mod for what was this a mod for? Arma? Wasn't this an Arma mod?
I believe, roughly when it first started, it was. Yeah, which also is one of those games that I look at and I'm like, why do you can see the traversal problems. Mm-hmm. But Arma is also one of those games that I look at and I'm like, wait a minute, how has this game become so popular? But it is, and I think it just launched for consoles, and I'm sure it's found a whole new audience there as well. So anyway, when I realized that PUBG was the original, was extremely innovative, and it ended up getting lapped by so many other games, I started wondering to myself, what other games or franchises were incredibly innovative out of the gate and then eventually ended up being done much better by other publishers or other developers? Without looking at the list I've already provided, can you think of any off the top of your head, Matt? Or did you look at the list already?
Well, no, I mean, I think the most obvious one for that would be EverQuest, because World of Warcraft basically made MMOs what they are,
and lo and behold,
and EverQuest had been around for years.
One of my picks.
I mean, how long did we have? EverQuest was around forever, and like I remember, we would actively discourage segments about it because we didn't want to play it.
I'll be honest, I used to laugh at people that played EverQuest.
Mm-hmm. Well, because it's. I mean, to be fair, EverQuest is still around. Like this game still exists. Like it's been around for 20 some years. But at the time before Warcraft made MMOs a whole thing. Like I remember we would laugh at the fact that people all had to kill the same creature, and that creature respawned so you'd get lines. Mm-hmm. Like people would wait in line to go kill this one enemy in very orderly fashion, and it was just like, what is fun about that? Like there's no what.
I could never understand it. And then look, even when World of Warcraft came out, I still didn't get it. I tried World of Warcraft 3 or 4 times, could never ever get into it.
No, I played a few times. I mean, I liked it, but it didn't.
It was huge at
it didn't
G4.
Hook me. I mean,
when we were at G4, everyone was.
We certainly
playing
remember what happened with some of the other shit. There was a lot of drama over, because back then it took forever to level your character up, so people got very attached to their characters. There was a lot of arguing over who got what. The gear stuff was a thing. I never got that attached. I finally played to the level cap, I think, around the time Wrath of the Lich King came out. Mainly because Morgan basically gathered some of us and was like, we're going to play World of Warcraft until we do raids, and you're going to do this with me. I'm like, okay. So I played.
I would have said no.
So I played a Ret Paladin for a couple months while we did that, and I'm glad I did. I saw the whole game. I saw everything. We did all.
It's
stuff.
valuable information to have.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, you're discussing it right now.
But I'm
years and years later.
Yeah, but I'm just I feel like I've done it, and then Cataclysm came out. We went, it's time for Cataclysm. We played Cataclysm one night, and we're just I think we're all done with this. Yeah, that was the end of it. I do not have the MMO addiction gene.
Me either. Thank God.
So it's fine.
Now Vincent is bringing up in chat. Now World of Warcraft is getting lapped by Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I mean, it certainly seems to be. Everyone I know who is because all the people I know who are MMO people, they'll jump from the old things and new things and go back to the other things. They have all been playing Final Fantasy 14 for 2 years now, and I haven't seen them waver.
Wow, they love it.
Yeah, there's a whole dedicated in one of the group chat things I'm in. There's a dedicated side channel just for Final Fantasy 14 discussion. Because the rest of us couldn't handle it anymore. Which is you need to go to get a room because no one wants to hear what level your job is right now.
That's like me with my friends from Philadelphia. During the pandemic, they've all been playing poker on Zoom. And at first I played because I was I just want to be social and see you guys. I can't, come home, and I hardly ever talk to you guys anymore. And then our text thread just became all about poker. And I had to be taken off of the text thread. I was I'm good, man. They're always trying to get money from each other. They're you owe me $20 or whatever. I'm I'm sick of this, dude. I did snooze it. Another franchise that I thought of is Guitar Hero.
Yeah, Rock Band really. To be fair, Rock Band was by the people who started Guitar Hero, so they knew where to evolve it better.
Yeah,
because Activision basically stole it from them. But
pretty much, yeah. But that is another franchise. Guitar Hero is huge. You got what Guitar Hero 3, was that the last one before Rock Band launched?
I think it was 2.
2 was?
I think 2 was because I think 3 launched us alongside Rock Band, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, and to be fair, Guitar Hero was a ripoff of a Japanese game.
What was it? Guitar Freaks.
Yeah, Guitar Freaks, which was an arcade game in Japan that had a guitar peripheral, and it was around for years before Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Then Guitar Hero one-upped it, and then Rock Band one-upped it.
Yeah.
And then
I do remember Guitar Hero stands. I mean, I loved all those games like that. But Guitar Hero stands out in my mind as probably the only game I was ever introduced to by Mark Fahey.
he's one of our producers on X-Play.
But he was more on it because he wasn't a gamer guy. He was a TV he was a producer.
He's also a guitar player, a really good guitar player.
And for whatever reason, he was the first one to try the Guitar Hero copy we got, and he's like, "You should play this. It's fun." And and Mark wasn't a huge game he didn't like games that much, but like the fact that he was pulled into that, and he's like, "This is pretty legit." Like because he was
he was right.
I mean, he came from the music show on Tech TV, Audiophile. And I was trying. I'm like, oh, this is fun. But I will always remember that I was introduced to like plastic instrument games by Mark Fahey,
someone who probably shouldn't introduce you to any games, really.
No, and also the person who should have most been the music snob about it,
right?
Because he can play real instruments, but he was like, no, this is kind of fun.
Yeah,
he was into it.
Yep. So it got lapped, and then Guitar Hero tried to come back around and do the band thing.
Yeah.
And that was a disaster. Mm-hmm. Like their last one was like this live service thing,
right?
That where you like had the songs didn't come on the disc. They were
right.
like on
like subscribed to all.
They were
all
like on a network, and that completely failed miserably. And that was really the end of the franchise.
Yeah,
that was what really killed it. And so that's another one.
Activision was on a roll killing long-term franchises between that and Tony Hawk Ride.
Yep. And then my next pick, this one might be a little controversial. I want your input on this one. Gears of War.
Who lapped that?
I mean, there have been a million third-person shooters since then. Cover-based third-person shooters. And that's why it's controversial. Do you think it has been lapped?
I can't think of a game that did it.
That did third-person shooting?
Cover-based shooting? That does cover-based third-person shooting better than Gears of War? No, I cannot think of a game that does that.
I mean, I would argue The Division does it better than Gears.
I find it hard to compare that to Gears just because it's so different in tone and what you're doing. I'm not in terms of basic game mechanics, but like shooting rando terrorists is different from like the sci-fi setting of Gears to me, to the point that I wouldn't think to parallel those games.
I mean, I'd agree with that, but you also have to look at the other things that those other games have done.
Right, but also like who's playing The Division instead of playing Gears of War?
I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched.
I think that'd be hard to prove. Unlike Guitar Hero, Rock Band, you're talking about literally people picking one or the other because they can only play one, or they can only afford one, or EverQuest or World of Warcraft. People abandoned EverQuest over that. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like anyone abandoned Gears of War for another specific game. I feel like just Gears of War sort of lost
its steam.
Lost its steam on its own. I don't think anybody ate its lunch, really.
I don't know, man. I think people playing these other big, like more RPG-driven, open-world, cover-based third-person shooters, I think that's actually has eaten Gears' lunch in some ways. I think the expectations for those types of games have gone way up, and Gears has stayed in that same place. And I get it. Like, I think a big problem for a lot of these franchises, Matt, is that they were successful. So you have a fear of changing them too much, because then people are like, well, this isn't. In fact, we're going to talk about Halo here in a little bit, Halo Infinite. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that's been happening with the Halo franchise over the last 10 years is because of that they're afraid of getting too far away from it, and so they're not going to try stuff new. And then when they do, the players tend to reject the new stuff.
I think that's definitely what happened with Halo. I think Gears is an idea that has a certain limitation, and they hit that limitation.
But like, if you look at stuff like The Division, like, you're setting up turrets and there's all these abilities that you can have. Like, to me, Gears feels so basic and plain compared to all the other cover-based third-person shooters.
I don't agree with any of that. I just don't. I would never in a million years occur to me to compare The Division to Gears of War.
Really?
No.
Well, as a shooter fan, I do. I compare all those third-person
I've never
shooters.
thought of Gears of War while I'm playing The Division, really. In terms of Gears, I don't find Gears gameplay particularly interesting anymore. I do think it's fairly simple, but The Division is more about the gadgets and sort of setting up the line and all that, whereas like I think of Gears of War as more of an aggressive game. You're running out, you can run over the cover and like charge at the guy and do the chainsaw stuff and all that. Like it's more. I think of Gears of War more as a forward thing, whereas the Division and kind of like the Tom Clancy stuff I think is more of a spread, like hold the line thing, versus Gears of War is like break the line thing. I prefer the hold the line stuff. Like I do. If you're gonna make me play one or the other, I am a less forward aggressive player in that situation, so I would prefer to play like a Ghost Recon or a Division in that sense. But it would never occur to me that I'm playing that instead of Gears of War.
Oh, to me it absolutely does. Yeah, I put them in the same subgenre. Third person cover-based shooters.
Well, I mean, yeah, they are both kill switch ripoffs.
Yeah,
like or win back ripoffs.
Right,
really,
win back ripoffs from the N64 days. Yeah,
if you want to get.
I wonder how much win back for the N64 is worth now. Is that one of those games that's like gone up?
I don't think so.
It should be.
In part because there was a PS2 version.
Oh, right.
So
I forgot about that.
Technically play it. It's not as good, but you can technically play it a different way.
I forgot about that, actually. You're right. And, that's probably why.
Yeah. It's probably, I mean, all N64 games I think are worth a little bit, unless you're like an EA Sports game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's as direct a line there as there is between like EverQuest and World of Warcraft.
I would agree with that. That's why I said I wanted your input on it to see how you felt about it. So I totally get
do
that.
think Halo's an interesting scenario of like, I do think a similar thing happened to Halo as what we are describing happened to these other games, but another games franchise didn't do it to Halo. Halo did it to itself.
Yeah.
Like Halo wasn't really, I mean, I guess you could argue Call of Duty, but I feel like Halo was already having sort of those growing pains before COD Modern Warfare, exploded.
Yeah.
Like I feel like by 2007 you could already see that even Halo 3 was sort of like, what are you doing? Like it was already kind of there. I feel like that would have happened to Halo whether Call of Duty exploded or not.
Okay. My last pick for this. And
it's interesting that COD hasn't had this happen, though.
Yeah, it hasn't.
For all of Battlefield's trying.
Yeah, and it tries.
Yeah.
Not every year. They don't come out as often as Call of Duty, which means that they should have a more likelihood of actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because they have so much time to actually
Right, you should be able to kind of regroup and really figure out what does and doesn't work, but they just don't.
They can't. And I'll say
in a sense, I guess you could argue that Battlefield had this, because 1942 was a phenomenon.
That's true. Actually, you're right. Maybe Battlefield is one of these games.
Yeah, maybe that kind of went that way.
Actually, you're right. But it's hard for me to pinpoint what went wrong.
It is hard to draw. Yeah, it was more. Again, it was more like a lack of follow up rather than another game took its place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final game, and this one I think will be even more dicey than Gears of War, is Half-Life. Very innovative. Kind of created the cinematic shooter experience.
I mean, I would argue you
created the set piece moment. In
shooters, I would argue you don't have Halo without Half-Life.
I would agree with that. But I think the difference with Half-Life is I don't know that it's actually all about a lack of trying, because it just went away.
Yeah, they just sort of stopped.
Because Half-Life 2 with its gravity gun pushed the boundaries at the time. And we can always wonder what a Half-Life 3 would have been like. I mean, maybe that's what Half-Life Alyx kind of is.
Sort of, yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard.
It's certainly at the very least, Half-Life Alyx hints that like if Half-Life 3 had happened or would happen, it would have something in it that we would, just like the gravity gun, we'd be like, wow, I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Like Valve always seems to have something like that in that series. Is like there's something you've never seen done in that way before.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what has kept Half-Life 3 from happening so long as they
can't find that
thing.
They
haven't found that thing that makes it that, like the Portal gun.
Yeah.
Was like in Portal. Like that's
right. They could have made a Half-Life game with that gun.
I mean, they didn't set that thing in the Half-Life universe in the end for nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Like it fit.
It did fit, totally. It makes total sense in that universe. But really, it got lapped because Valve just stopped trying.
Yeah.
It's not like it continued on. Like these other franchises, they actually did try to make new games and make them different or, whatever.
Legacy makes a good point. Call of Duty lapped Medal of Honor.
Did it?
It was the same devs.
Oh, you're right. They left.
They left after Allied Assault, and they made Call of Duty 2, which was basically here's what Medal of Honor could have become if EA had let us do what we want to do, and then they made Modern Warfare. I get
that.
The Infinity Ward guys basically they lapped their own game because EA wouldn't let them make the game they knew that they should make.
Because that is true. Because Medal of Honor in the PlayStation era was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of the
And
shooter.
Allied Assault was like, that was a revelatory game at the time.
And now it barely exists.
And
now it's relegated to VR games,
and
just like Half-Life.
As Call of Duty rose, Medal of Honor just limped along.
Disappeared. And eventually disappeared. Until
you got that, Warfighter and that other one with like the weird, like uncanny valley of faces and that cutscene with that woman.
And then now Medal of Honor is another one of those franchises. They're like, let's revive it for VR.
Yeah, sure.
Just like Half-Life.
By the same people. It was by Infinity Ward again.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Was that Respawn? Did Respawn?
Respawn.
Yeah, so it's the same people that were at
right. Yep. It just now it's like, you're right though. It went from Medal of Honor to Infinity Ward to Respawn.
And then they made Call of Duty Infinity Ward, and they came back and did a Medal of Honor for VR that showed them how it was done.
It's mind-boggling how it all works.
It's amazing how those guys, because a lot of the core of is a lot of the same people. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how those guys just like, they can do tons of things, do whatever they want, really. But it's like, those guys can just whip out a Medal of Honor game, like, if they want to, whenever.
Like they're standing at the urinal.
Yeah, it's like they've got like, it's like a magician that always has a deck of cards up his sleeve. It's like, oh, you want me to do a military shooter? There you go. Like, I'm going back to my desk now. It's like,
Can you think of any other franchises that kind of fall into this? I wonder if chat came up with any other than the Medal of Honor stuff. I don't see anything.
I mean, it depends on your perspective.
Not Circus saying Titanfall lapped Call of Duty.
In terms of quality, I would say so.
I mean, in terms of traversal, for sure.
And a lot of that, but it didn't catch fire in the mainstream the way that happened.
And Vincent brings up a good point. Half-Life Alyx did win some Game of the Year awards, so I guess in some ways maybe Half-Life hasn't completely fallen off.
I mean, I think there's people who would argue various things lapped various things in the fighting game world, but that's always going to be there's people that think Street Fighter has been lapped by Mortal Kombat or like Guilty Gear Strive or things like here's a good one.
Veritas is saying DMC was lapped by a dozen different action games. That's a good pick too. Actually,
Marvel vs. Capcom lapped by Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The all-star
specifically
fighter.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but like I can't think of a bigger especially because those came out so close together.
Yeah,
and like if Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite had just been that Dragon Ball game, everyone would have loved it. Like, it would have been phenomenal. Okay, we'd probably still be seeing it at EVO today.
Yeah.
But instead, it was just a disaster they didn't want to spend money on, and Marvel took all the mutants out of it and Dr. Doom out of it, and like it became a whole problem. And then meanwhile, the fact that Bandai Namco just like suddenly fired off this Dragon Ball game was like, oh, by the way, this is exactly the Marvel's Capcom style versus game you actually wanted. It's just Dragon Ball.
And then completely fumbled it after.
And then
launch.
They did fumble that. I mean, they did because of the license for the Dragon Ball license that introduced all these problems. But that initial moment, the fact that a Dragon Ball fighter like completely eclipsed a new Marvel versus Capcom game, like if you told me that was going to happen, I would have said you were nuts.
Yep.
But then it almost happened in the space of a few weeks. It was amazing. It was amazing to see.
And then there's Smash Brothers, which has not been lapped. It is an innovative new idea that, I mean, you got to realize developers have had 2 decades now to try to top Smash
honestly,
Brothers and been unable to do it.
That Nickelodeon thing that just got that's the only thing that even looks like visually they've nailed the look and feel of Smash Brothers. But that's 20 years later.
And I would argue too that you're not going to lap an innovative franchise by just nailing the same thing that franchise is already doing. You're going to have to do it better, and you're going to have to push the boundaries a little more. You can't just get away with replicating with a new coat of paint.
I don't see how you do that with Smash Brothers, really.
But that's the thing. It's like nobody can see how you do it until somebody does see how to do it.
Right, but I don't think you can really push the Smash Brothers formula much further, because also so much of the appeal of Smash Brothers is also the fighters and who they are and the brand you're using.
Yeah.
And Nickelodeon has the somewhat advantage that I think a lot of their brands are beloved in a similar way by a generation that is now coming of 30-ish age, in the same way the Nintendo generation was when Smash Brothers was introduced. I just don't think Nickelodeon maybe has quite the critical mass in that realm of gaming that Nintendo always will.
Yeah, I mean, a lot will depend on the developer too. You got to realize
weirder tables have turned.
Yeah,
so
you got to find a good developer. I mean, the same studio has been making Smash for a long time. They've got it honed at this point.
Yeah. And you got to find, who knows how dedicated the developers or the publisher or Nickelodeon themselves are to, supporting this game and pushing it. Because the other thing that kept Smash alive was the community that sprang up playing tournaments and doing their their version of esports with it for so long until they got absorbed into Evo and all that. Like there's an extra component beyond just being a good game. It has to be popular with the community.
Yep.
And obviously we don't know what'll happen there with the Nickelodeon game.
Yep. If there's one publisher that has a chance to lap Smash, it would probably be Sony. Mm-hmm. It has a big roster of characters that's growing by the day. They tried already with PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale or whatever, which was not good. Mm-hmm. But I think if there is an opportunity to lap Smash, that's probably the best bet. Because they have the resources, they have the roster of characters. Nickelodeon has the roster of characters. I just doubt that the studio that's working on the game is up to the task. We'll see. I'm intrigued by it. I mean, we talked about it. I've seen Ren and Stimpy stuff in a Smash clone. That rang my bell for sure. So I think there's an opportunity there. We'll see if they ultimately execute on it. Also want to check one last time on chat to see if anyone came up with any other franchises that we may have overlooked. Skate over Tony Hawk. Okay. Oh, the eternal Skate versus Tony Hawk debate. I don't know if I can call myself a skater anymore. Like, I skate every once in a while. I wouldn't call myself a skater. I'm probably, I hate to say it, even though I skated for 11 years straight, I'm probably a poser now. I hate to say it, but I did skate for like over a decade. I still prefer to play Tony Hawk over Skate. Skate is like it's too hard, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Because of the control scheme, the way they use the analog sticks, you have to be so perfect with the direction of the stick to do the exact trick you want. Like, I enjoy playing Skate until they tell me to do a backside crooked grind down a handrail, and the difference between like the crooked grind and the backside Smith grind is like 5 degrees on the analog stick.
There was a level of analog stick mastery Skate demanded that I was never going to achieve.
I gave up. I was like, this isn't worth it. And I do enjoy just skating around in Skate, but as far as playing a game that keeps me engaged and keeps me going, I prefer the Tony Hawk franchise. I do realize it's a matter of taste. There are some people out there who would say that Skate absolutely lapped Tony Hawk. I'm not one of them, but I can understand.
Also for me, like, I would go with Tony Hawk just because, to me, skating games are fun as kind of platformers.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the simulation of the skating experience.
It's not like that at all, really.
No, not at all. I mean, I've tried to play Skate, and it's not not a thing I am going to master at any time.
Also, all the indie skateboarding games that have come out since have all tried to emulate Skate.
Right.
They have not tried to emulate Tony Hawk. So maybe that lends some credence to what Sneaky's saying, because instead of emulating Tony Hawk, they went after Skate. So maybe the majority of people think that Skate did eclipse Tony Hawk. I do understand that that's a perspective some people have. I just don't share it. Casuality, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. Always try to wait till the end of the show. And I understand some of you guys can't make it all the way to the end and you just want to get it in there. But try to wait till the end of the show so that we can thank you, because I can't keep one eye on the chat at all times, unfortunately.
Some are saying Forza versus GTA.
Gran Turismo. There are some people that would want to fist fight you over that one.
That's true, but I would stand on the Forza side.
I ran into one on YouTube not long ago who watched our show and was not happy that we had basically given the crown to Forza. There are some hardcore GT fans out there. It's pretty crazy.
And they have my sympathy.
Yeah.
But I'm over here playing Forza.
And enjoying
the better game.
Exactly. I think that was a fun topic, though. Fun discussion.
The last Forza is about to get delisted, isn't it?
It is.
Forza 7?
Yeah. Why would you delist that before you get the new one out?
Because the licenses are up.
Oh,
That's
the
it.
car licenses.
Car licenses are done.
Wow. That's bizarre.
Because it's expiring right around the time it came out.
So are they going to... Will the server stay up? Can we still play it?
I think so. You just can't sell it anymore.
You just can't buy it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a little more sense. But, man, they're probably now like, dude, we need to get the new Forza out.
I mean, it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, you can get it for like nothing. Because it's been a long time at this point. Yeah. I mean, it's been, 6 or 7 years since the last Forza?
I think it's been 5. I think the 5-year license sounds about right.
Yeah, that does make sense, actually. No one's going to sign a 7-year license agreement. I highly doubt it.
The lawyers like round numbers.
Yeah. Johnny Hurricane, like Gran Turismo, but Forza is superior. I think most people agree with us on that.
4 years, maybe?
I think it's
4 years, they're saying. 4 years as well. A lot of licenses are 4 years.
Are they?
I've seen that a lot, yeah.
Huh. I wonder why that is.
That's how long a lot of Activision's like Marvel and Transformers games lasted before they got delisted.
I wonder
why
4 years.
That
is. Why is it 4 years?
I don't know.
Interesting. Maybe someone will figure it out. Yeah, and as Teeman says, Horizon's coming out at the end of the year. I consider those two different franchises.
They are, but like
They're still both called Forza.
Yeah, you only want to see the word Forza in the store lineup so many times, I guess.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. That was fun. I enjoyed talking about that. Next up, I hinted earlier that we had another topic about PlayStation 5 later in the show, and here it is. So I was talking earlier in the show, and I mentioned on Twitter that the Xbox Series X is now my daily driver, and I would attribute most of that to, more so than Game Pass, the fact that it has a bigger hard drive. Mm-hmm. Now, the truth of the matter is the OS on Xbox Series is bigger than the OS on PlayStation 5 by like 50 gigs or something like that. But it actually has like a 200 and some gig difference. And so, as I said earlier, I did the math. Basically, the advantage you have on Xbox Series is about 140 gigabytes once you account for the OS on each platform. That 140 gigabytes is like a revelation to me. But if you're on a PlayStation 5, you only have, 625 workable gigs?
Yeah, because like the hard drive on that, I think, is 820?
825.
Yeah.
And then it's not quite 200. So actually, I think it maybe is 675.
Yeah, it's almost 700.
And I do remember it's 808 workable gigs on Series.
Right.
So
right.
That math works out.
Also, and I slapped a 3 terabyte SSD external on the Xbox as well, so I've got plenty of room.
And that brings up the point of this discussion is that, Matt, you just slapped that hard drive on there.
Which you can also do externally to PS5. However, when the PS5 launched, it was suspected that the external hard drives were causing them to brick.
Right.
So I did not do that, and I still haven't.
Well, technically, unless you're a part of the special beta program on PlayStation, you still can't upgrade your SSD, but it's coming very soon, and right now there is a beta program where people are able to do it. And so this is a big deal, because people like me, I have actually chosen to play my Xbox more than my PlayStation because of the bigger hard drive. It just is more convenient. I don't have to always delete something every time I want to play something, and that I am literally at that point now, Matt. And even so, I said last night I turned on my PlayStation 5 for the first time since I had finished Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And there was a system update that was needed, and it was big, by the way. It took forever to download. And I had to go delete stuff off of my hard drive. So I deleted like Final Fantasy, that demo for Final Fantasy.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I had left that on there. So
I deleted that before I turned the system off after playing that.
But it was like 11 gigs. And so I deleted that, and that gave me enough space to download the new update. But I'm just constantly doing this juggling. So people have been waiting for the ability to upgrade the SSD on the PlayStation 5, and it's coming. However, Matt.
What?
Oh, my gosh. Have you looked at the procedure to do this?
No, I looked at Mark Cerny tweeted like the one he was going to use, the Western Digital one. And the 2 terabyte model costs more than the PlayStation 5.
Well, I thought the one that he recommended was $140.
The one I saw him tweet about, and I click on the link to it. It's a Western Digital 2 terabyte with a heat sink. It was $550.
I thought I read an article.
If you get a smaller model of that, it is closer to like 200 something, I think. But it's like an extra 256 gigs at that point.
Yeah, I thought I had read an article where the one that he recommended was 140 or something like that, but maybe not. Maybe I read another erroneous
there
article.
Is no SSD, the speed required for this, that is $140 unless you're getting something that's like 150 megabytes.
So we've waited
gigabytes.
Yeah, so we've waited all this time for just the ability to do it. We finally get the ability to do it, and then Mark Cerny, as you're saying, gave this outrageous thing that you should buy, crazy expensive. Like, who's going to pay that for? I won't.
Nobody who isn't getting Sony executive money.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's not feasible.
For 2 terabytes.
I know. That's not feasible.
No. And all the stuff I've seen that, like, they've not him, but they've been like, oh, this model's going to be okay for it. They're all hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these things. They're super high-end SSDs. Like, that's an expected price for those, but like, you're paying almost as much as the console for these for an extra 2 terabytes of storage. It's insane.
And Matt, it's not just that. So if you do decide that you are willing to chuck out the cash for the bigger SSD, then suddenly you have other things to worry about, like actually installing it and making sure that the one that you buy is exactly right. This is what we're seeing right now, is the official page that Sony has launched to teach people how to upload or to upgrade their SSD. I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to start scrolling. And this is literally just the essential information you need to know. This is it. There's no superfluous stuff in here. So first they tell you what the M.2 SSD is. Then they tell you why you should add it. Then here's where they go into which ones. And
which was the big problem. Was like there weren't any on the market fast enough yet.
Look at this, Matt. Can you imagine like your dad going to this page to figure out how to upgrade his SSD?
Now, I mean, to be fair, most people are not going to really worry about this because they're probably not going to fill that hard drive up that fast like we do.
Maybe.
And then I believe on the Xbox Series X, you just buy the overpriced hard drive thing they have and you stick it in the slot.
Right. That's all you do. And that slot in the back of the console. That's it. You just plug it in and it works. And look at this, Matt.
This is so Sony. This is perfect Sony right here. What are all these why are they color coded? What am I looking at? I don't know. I can't tell what I'm looking at from over here.
Dimensional specifications: M.2 SSD devices for PS5 for attaching a double-sided heat sink.
Right, because the Western Digital ones have heat sinks that come with it. Yeah.
That's the thing. So the SSD for PS5, it does have to have a heat sink. It has to, and those have been hard to get. They haven't really manufactured them until now. Installing them, Matt, it's insane. This is insane. Right here, M.2 SATA SSDs aren't supported.
Right. If they were, we'd already have them installed.
Yeah. So this is all this stuff I've shown you so far is what Sony tells you need to look out for before you buy one.
Right. This is choosing
this
your
is
weapon.
Choosing the drive.
It's choosing the thing you're going to spend the same amount of money you spent on the PS5 on.
Yeah. And then we get down here, and here's where you actually add it.
You're almost halfway down the page. You can take the whole thing apart. Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Still going. Oh, there's a separate thing for how to remove it.
Dude.
And you're going to want to remove it because I promise you're going to want to keep that thing when you get rid of the PS5 one day.
Heck yeah. You want to keep it for the rest of your life. You'll leave it to your kids when you die. Dude.
Here's my $1,000 PS5 hard drive.
I feel like Sony did not think this through, Matt. I feel
if it was this complicated, why don't you just give us a 2 terabyte thing in the thing?
Right.
It would have been not optimal size for the architecture. Give me a break. Come on.
It's insane. The average person's going to do that?
Yeah. I mean, if you can do stick an external one on there for the PS4 stuff, that helps a lot. I will probably eventually do that, but I at some point I've kind of given up.
Sneaky is saying, but isn't this on top of the 1 terabyte you already have? The PS5 does not have a 1 terabyte drive.
No.
After the OS is installed on it, you only have 670 usable gigs of space. Because the OS on the PS5 is a gig and a half. The OS on Series is 2 gigs. So you lose. And it starts at 820 or something.
The PS5 has an 825 gigabyte SSD, and once the OS is on it, you get 667.2 gigabytes.
667, yeah. So you're losing a ton of space already,
which is almost it's barely over half a gig at that point.
Yeah.
Or half a terabyte at that point.
Yep.
So that's very, and the installs are a little smaller on PS5, but not enough to make up for the loss of 400 gigabytes. It's ridiculous. And
Scorpius Finest does bring up a good point. You can use an normal external drive on it, but you can't play PS5 games from it.
For PS5. Well, to be fair, there aren't a lot of PS5 games yet.
True.
I mean, if I could put an external, I avoided the external because of the bricking concerns. But obviously, if I bought one of those for the PS5, I could move 80 to 90% of what's installed on it to that.
Yeah.
I don't. The only PS5 only stuff I have on it are basically the Spider-Mans, Demon's Souls, and Ratchet.
Yep.
Which will help. That helps. I mean, that's also true of the Xbox.
And again,
I've only got the XS stuff, the compatible stuff on the internal on the Xbox. Everything else is on the external.
And again, as we said earlier, the file sizes are smaller on PlayStation.
Yeah,
so
not
each game
that much smaller.
It's about 25% smaller.
I have a respectable amount of stuff on the PS5. It's not like I look at it and it's oh my god, I've only got 4 games. It's fine, but a lot of it's PS4 stuff. But it's it's very noticeable. It's noticeable that you don't have a lot of storage to work with, and I have already deleted stuff I didn't really want to delete yet because of it. Yep. I've had to delete stuff to install patches for things.
Yep.
It's just a pain.
So what we're seeing right here, I think the timing worked out perfect. Right there, that's the SSD. That's it right there. So to get into that, you have to take your console apart. You have to take the shells off of it. You have to take the console apart, split it apart, then take off that plate. And then depending on which SSD you buy is which one of those holes you actually screw the SSD into.
I mean, that's pretty standard, like, PC building stuff. It's just unusual for a console. Like,
my SSD on my PC just has a normal ribbon cable, like...
Yeah, but I'm talking about, like, if you're just putting components into a PC, like, that's not super crazy. Like, but it's just, like, silly to have it on a console.
Right, that's my point.
But part of the reason I think this is the way it is they didn't actually know what these hard drives were going to look like.
Maybe. Yeah, because they hadn't been manufactured yet. So they had to make the hole bigger than they thought.
They had to basically
make sure
build, like, a generic place for them. Because all those holes there, to me, that just looks like hedging your bets to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's, like, whatever it'll be here, or here. We don't know what they're going to do yet, or what the different models are going to do. The different companies are going to make them like this. So we're just going to do it all, and the user can deal with it.
Leave a gigantic hole.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they did that, because if eventually you want to get, like, I can't even imagine when I'd be able to afford one, but like a 4 or 5 terabyte SSD.
Oh, for like $1,000? Yeah, sure.
Probably more than that.
Right now, yeah. By the end of this thing's life, maybe you'll be able to pay like $400 for a 4 terabyte of that quality.
Maybe. How big of a deal do you think this is going to be in the long run? Because it's a big deal to me right now.
I mean, it's a big deal to me, but in terms of like, aerial view, nothing.
You don't think it'll matter at all?
Yeah. I mean, the hardcore people like us are going to care that we want, but what are we going to do? Just like get rid of the PS5? Anyone going to not buy a PS5 because of this? No, it doesn't matter.
Well, no, I think they'll buy it, but they may become irate after they have it and they kind of realize. Because Matt, by the way, Call of Duty Cold War is now 205 gigs. I noticed this yesterday, and actually, it's asking for another update that I don't have the space for.
But for that, I would just put that on an external. At that point.
But then you couldn't play the PS5 version of it. You'd be playing the PS4 version.
We don't have a PS5 version.
What?
Is there a PS5
Yeah, there are separate versions
versions
of Call of Duty. Yeah. Yeah, there's a PS5 version of it that you can download that's separate from the PS4 version.
It's not any smaller?
I don't remember. Yeah, because I don't remember. So I don't want to quote a number or anything like that.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it matter.
But it looks a lot better, and it runs at 120 frames per second. So if you
have the TV for that.
Right, if you have the TV for it. But yeah, I mean, it's an advantage, if you're into being competitive. It's a competitive advantage to play the PS5 version over the PS4 version or on PS4 Pro. So you think the average person is going to be okay with 600 gigs? Because the
average person's not even going to notice.
Because I brought this up on Twitter.
The average person doesn't buy that many games.
Well, I brought this up on Twitter, and I was shocked at how many people, at least they say this is what they do. They finish a game, then they delete it, and then they install the new game they're going to play on it, and then they finish that, and then they delete it. And then
that is more or less how normal people play video games.
You mean with hard drives they do?
No, like that's how normal people who don't play everything that comes out like we do, they just play one thing at a time.
So, well, I get playing one thing at a time, but I play like a lot of multiplayer games. So I leave them on my hard drive.
Okay, see, that's what I'm saying is like if most people I know who are not hardcore gamers, just casual people that like to play games now and then, they have one multiplayer game they play.
Okay.
They don't play more than one multiplayer game. They play Call of Duty or they play Battlefield or they play whatever. That's it. That's all they play, multiplayer-wise. If they have time to play a multiplayer game, they have one game they play. That's one of the reasons that like a lot of the people like that, the more casual, not super casual because they're still playing pretty hardcore games, but it's like they'll say, like, do you play X? As though it's an ongoing hobby. Because that is an ongoing hobby to them. Like there's, like people play stuff like Madden or FIFA. Like that's their whole thing. They play that year round and they get the new one and they start over, or Street Fighter. There's people I know. All they do is play fighting games. They play Street Fighter. That's the only thing on their hard drive.
Well, what convinced me to turn my Xbox into my daily driver was Rocket League. I wanted to play Rocket League, and my PS5 was full, and I was like, I've got like 400 gigs free on my Xbox Series X.
Which is funny because like Rocket League is one of the games I associate with PlayStation. because that's where I got it for the first time.
Interesting.
For
Yeah,
free.
because they gave it
They gave it away for free
on
yeah.
PlayStation Plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think a lot of people got into it that way. But I didn't care. Like, I hadn't played it for years, and I couldn't even remember like what I had unlocked or anything like that. And so I just trashed my account on PlayStation and started playing on Xbox, and it took me like a day to get everything unlocked that I really wanted anyway. And that was the thing that turned me to Xbox. And once that kind of pinged in my brain, I was like, well, that's just what I'm going to do now. So you're right. Like, I think sometimes it's hard to recognize that we do things a lot differently from the average player. Like, I was shocked how many people said that they literally play one game, finish it, and delete it off their hard drive, and then play the next one. So they only ever have one game on their hard drive at all times. Mm-hmm. That seems crazy to me. But if you don't play multiplayer games...
You know what seems crazy to someone who does that is probably spending hundreds of dollars
right,
on
an extra SSD.
Or on extra SSD, but also on games you're not playing.
Right.
Because they have to buy all their games. Like, you get all that stuff for free.
I do, but... But, I mean, the games that I keep on my hard drive are games that I'm playing. I'm not just leaving them on there.
Yeah, but if you're budgeting, that's the main thing that motivates that style of play is, like, if you're budgeting, your games as entertainment, you're going to play that game, finish that game.
I'd be interested in chat to hear what people, if the people here do that. Just have one game on their console at a time, and when they finish it, they delete it, and then download the next one that they're going to play. Not a lot of commentary about it. Vincent brings up a good point, though. It's like, if you have Call of Duty Cold War, Warzone, Madden, and GTA, your PS5's pretty much full. Mm. That's it. That's all you're going to have. And he brings up a good point. A lot of casual players would have that exact collection of games on their drive.
And it wouldn't shock me if that was one of the, targets for the size that the default hard drive has.
It may be, actually.
As long as you got those people happy, that's your majority of your audience.
That's actually a really good point, Matt. Because the other thing about Vincent pointing out these 4 games is that they're all games that you would keep on your hard drive because you play multiplayer, GTA Online. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But I was shocked to see that people were like, yep, as soon as I finish a game, I delete it, and then I figure out what I'm going to play next, and I download it. And I only have one game on my hard drive at a time. Like, they thought I was crazy. And so it made me think about it. I'm like, well, maybe I am crazy. I don't know. And that was all.
Not everybody lives the backlog life like we do. I
guess not. I mean, I don't ever play my backlog.
No, I don't care.
I never really go back and play old games at all.
I do, but it's not like I have I don't have like a structure to that. It's just whatever the whim takes me. I was like, I want to play Saints Row 4 today. Yeah. Why not?
But bottom line is expanding the storage on the PlayStation 5 is far less elegant than doing it on Xbox.
I mean, far less elegant than I even expected it. I didn't expect it to be, simple necessarily. Right. But that is just like, really? I mean, it's not like I've built PCs. I can do it for sure, but it just feels like it should be.
Well, we can do it. But I think about like people in my life, my family, I know now that are trying to find a PS5 or got a PS5. Would they be able to do that?
But are those people?
Hell no.
But are those people going to run out of storage space anytime soon?
I don't know. It depends, because a lot of those people do play like games like Apex Legends and Destiny 2, another game that's up at like 200 and some gigs at this point. Like my brother-in-law, he's a huge Destiny 2 player. Like it's all he plays. But he'll also have Call of Duty and Battlefield on there at the same time. Like a lot of people do just play competitive games as well. There's a lot of people anymore that...
Well, I think that's why you're going to see more and more like the option to, like Call of Duty already does, you can not install the campaign.
Yeah.
If all you want is multiplayer.
That's true.
Saves you a lot of storage space there.
Yep, that's a good point. What's the solution to this? Is it a problem? Is this a solution in search of a problem, as you like to say?
To some degree, but I do think you and I actually do have the problem.
We do, legitimately.
And also, I mean, it's just I cannot bring myself to spend that kind of money on a hard drive.
No way.
Certainly not for that small amount of storage space.
I'll just play my Xbox.
Like if it was like a 10 terabyte drive for that much, maybe, but like because then I wouldn't have to worry about storage space again. Yeah, it would be that'd be the end. I could install every PS5 game I ever bought forever, and that'd be fine. But like 2 terabytes for that, and then have to go through that to put it in, and then I could probably be full by that night. No, I'm just gonna deal. I will just get an external hard drive for the PS4 stuff and deal with it as it comes. Because frankly, I don't see myself needing that much space for PS5 only games for a while now.
Yep. Yeah. Now, based upon the beginning of this show. And maybe even Kenna's going to be probably like 15 gigs or whatever.
I can't imagine it to be that big.
It's not going to be huge. Yeah, so maybe...
One of the best things about Great Ace Attorney Chronicles was it was like 6 gigs. Right. It was like, done.
Maybe Sony knew all along that this was coming, and they're like, people are going to freak out at first about the 600 gigs, but trust me, they'll be fine.
Yeah, just keep it quiet. Even Ratchet's not that big.
It's not. It was like 30, 40 gigs, something like that. Yeah, which is amazing.
If they can really like cram that stuff, I'm curious to see what like Horizon is.
Yeah,
what the
me
footprint
too.
Of that. Something like
big,
Horizon
sprawling
or
world, open world, where you can't just load stuff in like they did with Ratchet.
Right, like where duplicated data is probably a more logical choice to solve some problems.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
but anyway, this is coming for everybody else pretty soon. It's still only in that beta program. So if you are someone who only has a PS5 and you don't have a Series X, and you're bumping up against it like Matt and I are, Relief is coming soon as far as having as far as the option for Relief is coming soon if you're wealthy. If you feel like you can blow a few hundred bones just on a little chip, because that's really all they are.
Yeah.
Then Relief is coming. But I think probably the vast majority of people just don't have enough games to fill it up yet, or if they're only using their PS5 for their PS5 games, they definitely don't have enough to fill it up yet. So I'm just explaining how it pushed me away from my PS5 and landed me as my Xbox Series X being my daily driver.
Yeah, I mean, certainly.
And it also works better for Game Pass, too, because it's like, I'm like, if I want to sample this,
I never worry about having space for it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just there. Like, and I think that was smart. Like, Microsoft is like, we got to put a bigger drive in this, because if we want people to use Game Pass the way we need them to use Game Pass to make Game Pass the success we need it to be, they're going to need a bigger hard drive. And it was smart, and it's working on me. That's all I can say. I never dreamed that I would be playing my Xbox. I mean, go back and watch GameFace from when these consoles launched, and I never would have dreamed back then that I would be spending all my time playing my Series X, and my PlayStation 5 would just be sitting there, turned off. When did Ratchet come out?
Last month, June. Not last month, because it's August today.
I had not turned on my PS5 in a month and a half, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the PS5, the first time I turned it on after Ratchet was, I think, Great Ace Attorney,
which you could have got on Switch or PC.
PC, yeah, but PS5 made the most sense for me because, I mean, if I'm super honest, it was because if I'm going to hold a controller for that long, I'd rather hold the DualSense.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree with that for sure. Yep. Even though I do have like the awesome Xbox controller, the DualSense is better.
Yeah. Well, also I don't want to sit in my office and play that. I want to play on my couch.
Yep.
So it's between Switch and PlayStation 5, and I would rather hold the DualSense than the
So wait, your
Pro
Series
controller.
isn't out in your living room?
The Series is, but Ace Attorney Chronicles isn't on that.
Oh. Gotcha. Okay.
If it was, I would have gotten it on that.
Yeah. So there you go.
But the daily driver was out of the options, so I had to choose one of the also rans, and I picked the PS5.
Had to pull something.
Congratulations, Sony! You won the Ace Attorney Chronicles dog race. Like,
and what a dog race it was,
Indeed.
Matt.
Indeed.
Okay. So anyway, whenever they do finally release this, it's basically a firmware update that you're going to need to download that will enable the SSD expansion. When they do that, we'll be sure to let you know. We're not going to discuss it in depth again, but we'll be sure to let you know that it's available for everyone. So if you're one of those people who've been waiting to expand your storage on your PlayStation 5, you can do it. All right, let's move on to our last topic of our first episode in our brand new studio. We're going to talk about the Halo Infinite technical test that was going on this entire weekend. Matt, were you able to play it at all?
No, I was not invited to this.
Okay. I just asked. In fact, I just asked on Facebook, a guy that I know that
also,
works.
I don't think I realized it was happening until it was already halfway over.
Oh.
So
I just asked, like, I know a guy who works at 343 on Facebook, and I just messaged him. I'm like, hey, can I get in? He's like, yep. He sent me a code like 10 minutes later or whatever. Unfortunately,
figured you'd be playing it anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I was in here all weekend long, I did not get to play it as much as I wanted to, because I'll say this, in hindsight, I really wish I could have played it a lot more, because I really liked it. Like, if you've watched us talk about Halo 4 or Halo 5 around these parts, neither one of us have been big fans. I wouldn't even say we were even fans. You hate it more than I do, those last 2 games.
No, I mean, not in the
I found them tolerable.
Not in the multiplayer sense, but like I physically dislike 4, and I didn't like 5 much.
Yeah, I found them tolerable, but still not up to scratch with the old Halo games. And if you can see there, the lower third says it all. Combat devolved. They have rolled things back for Halo Infinite to the way I would argue most people prefer that they be. So one of the polarizing things from the last couple Halo games is the traversal options that they've given you. They've expanded them and allowed you to do things you couldn't do in Halo games before, but a lot of people argued that it really kind of took the soul and the spirit away from Halo. So things like the ground pound has been removed. What else? There was that other mechanic that they gave you, and I think it was just in Halo 5. They took that away too. And basically all you have now is a sprint and a slide, and you can climb over stuff. And that's it. And I would even...
And the grappling hook.
Right. Well, I was going to get to that.
Which is very prominent in this footage.
It's very prominent in this footage, and it's very prominent in the game, and it works very, very well and feels like seamless. So if you remember how Titanfall allowed you to run on walls, and it just felt like butter, and it just worked, and it was intuitive. The grapple hook in this feels the same exact way. It's very smooth. It's not like this thing where you like stop and there's this awkward transition where it flies out of your fist and then it hooks onto something and pulls you up. It's very fluid and smooth in one motion when you use it, especially as you start to get better using it. So they have actually dialed back the control options, the traversal options in Halo Infinite compared to Halo 4 and Halo 5. And I'll be honest with you, it's like less is more. It absolutely less is more. I don't know if it's my nostalgia factor kicking in, but I'll just say this, Matt. Playing this feels like playing Halo 3. My favorite Halo of all time. And I know people will debate what their favorite Halo is. My favorite is Halo 3, and Infinite feels like playing Halo 3. I'm very excited about that. Now, one caveat that I have with this is that at the beginning of this technical test, you could only play against bots. And there's like, so you'd have human teammates against a team of bots, and they were terrible. And heaven forbid if you ever have to play against the bots, because they're basically brain dead. But eventually, across the weekend, like the last couple hours it was available, they did open it up to human teams against human teams. Unfortunately, I only managed to play one match of humans against humans before it was turned off.
Why did they do that?
Technical tests. They're just trying to make sure that everything's working. I don't know why they waited so long to turn on the humans against humans. They weren't even supposed to at all. It was supposed to be bots the whole time. And I think at the end they're just like, let's throw these people a bone, and they let people play some matches human against human for a while. But I uncovered a bunch of stuff about this playing it that was pretty crazy. One thing I will say is I mentioned earlier about Jack Frags was playing the PC version of this, locked at 60 frames a second, which he was complaining about like over and over and over again. It was locked at 60 frames per second for me, and it felt great. Like it's just, I guess, expectations, what you're used to. And I am used to, at this point, I am getting used to playing shooters at 120 frames. Before I quit playing Call of Duty from all the cheating, I had gotten used to playing at 120 frames per second. But maybe it's been a couple months now since I quit playing COD, and I had forgotten it, but I thought this game played like butter and felt great. It was also loaded with a bunch of stuff that isn't necessarily related to playing modes or playing against other human beings. Like all the tertiary stuff was in there already, Matt. So like all the customization in this game is crazy. And I'll just be the first one to tell you that like I never really cared about like customizing my armor in Halo 4 or 5. I just didn't. I didn't dive into it enough to know how much more robust this is, but I'm telling you, it is insane. There are separate armor pieces that you can color, paint, wrap. I think they have a word for it, like dip or something like that. But there are, let's see, let me go through it. Oh, it's called coding. So armor coding for helmets, visors, chest pieces, left shoulder, right shoulder, glove, wrist, hip, knee pads. Those are all separate parts that you can color and
You can color and no one will ever notice.
Yeah, you don't. That's why I never even cared. Like, but what I would do,
especially because I used to do that. I used to customize my character and do that. But the problem was always like, well, we'd always just end up playing team games. We'd all be red or blue anyway. So none of it only mattered if you're playing like free for all deathmatch kind of thing, and no one ever does that.
Yeah, I never really messed with it, and for whatever reason, they've just gone completely overboard with it for Halo Infinite. And some people will like that. I have seen people talk about how much they liked customizing their armor in Halo 5, for example. So it's not that out of the ordinary. But as I said, it was bots only for pretty much the entire weekend. There was some real matches right before it closed. They have made some significant tweaks to weapons, which I also think will make Halo people very happy. The battle rifle is once again a power weapon. And so what I found is a battle rifle and some grenades, and off I went. And again, it felt like playing the classic Halo games. The dance is back, Matt. You know what I'm talking about. The strafe hop dance where you're trying to lead your enemy with your grenades while you're firing your battle rifle. It was like this huge rush of nostalgia for me. There wasn't a lot... One thing I would say is there wasn't a lot of new stuff. Like you've been seeing in this footage, there's like that new shield that kind of replaces the bubble shield. I'm a little torn on that because the new shield has panels. And if they shoot an individual panel, that panel will shatter and you're not protected by that one cube of the panel anymore versus the bubble shield, which was like all or nothing. Like once it died, you're vulnerable, but when it was working, it was just flat out working. So in this, I could see where people who are going against people with the shield will like that because they can focus on that one panel and get a window into hitting it. I will say this. It does create more strategy overall from using it. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of new stuff I came across. The other thing I would say, too, is the pistol, totally OP again. Which, again, that's Halo. Like the pistol in the original Halo games, you could wipe the map with that pistol. And in this game... same deal. Like 2 headshots, I was dropping people with the pistol. And to me, I'm totally cool with that. Some other stuff that was included, there are these things called weapon drills. They're just basically almost like a firing range, but they're tied into the progression. So basically enemies just appear and run across like the firing range and you just shoot them and you have to try to destroy them all within a set period of time. There's 3 levels of difficulty for those, and those all tie into the unlocks and the battle pass. They showed off the battle pass. It seems to be pretty cool as far as like you're going to be able to unlock most of this stuff for free. I think the math on the battle pass from the last one was like 10 minutes equals a penny or something like that. I don't know if they've carried over that ratio for Halo Infinite's unlocks, but I would be surprised if they strayed too far away from it. What else? Let's see. There is the Academy, which teaches players how to play Halo using weapons drills. The training modules I already talked about. Another addition to this game that is really smart is there's a new... like a signifier when you're shooting enemies, like parts of their body light up to show you where they're being struck. It seems like a really silly addition, but it makes a huge difference. Like it helps you really scope in your headshots. So if you think you're hit land in the head, the feedback will say, nope, you got the right shoulder. Nope, you got the top of the chest, or you got the left shoulder, or you got the neck. You can see that indicator and very quickly just tick your aim up just enough to land that headshot. And obviously everybody else has it too, so it's not like it's an ability that only you get that gives you an advantage. Everybody has it, but it just makes targeting a lot easier, which playing shooters with an analog stick, a lot of people would argue that's something that you need. I would not argue that, but some people would. Some people feel like playing shooters with an analog stick is like trying to chew gum and rub your tummy at the same time. What else did I experience? The armor customization, I talked about that. There's a vehicle bay. So just as granular as the armor stuff is for your character, the vehicles are the same way. Like each vehicle has like 15 or 20 plates on it that can all be customized, can all be wrapped. They really have gone overboard with the ability to customize the different parts of everything. But you can do the same thing with guns. You can coat your guns, and each weapon is broken down into a bunch of different parts. A lot of the weapon skins are unlocked in the battle pass. You can give your character robot appendages. You can give a personality to your AI. So your Cortana, you can give, there's like a list of like 10 different personalities you can assign to. It's not Cortana, obviously, but for lack of a better example, you can customize your Cortana, and they have a different voice, a different way they will respond to you. You can change its color, and you can coat it the way that you want to. What else? It just goes on. And this is all just in this little technical test. All this stuff was included in here already. I think that's it, actually, though. I think that's everything that I gleaned from my time. And again, I did not get to play this as much as I wanted to. There were no vehicles in the technical test yet. I think maybe in the next week or two they're planning on including the vehicles in this stuff, but so far there's nothing, so I wasn't able to try out any of the new vehicles that may be in it. I wasn't even able to try out really any new weapons. Everything seemed to be something that I had played with before, unless I missed something along the way. I did get to mess around with the sniper rifle for a little bit. You can do quick scoping. You can actually quick scope with almost any weapon that I messed around with, which, again, that's one of those things that some people hate and some people love. This is the firing range stuff I was talking about. And again, there's 3 different levels of difficulty for this, which just basically means you have less time to complete each round. And you can take any weapon in there. If you get a new weapon and you want to try it out or become better with it, you can take it in there and try to use it and become better with it. There were 3 maps that I remembered playing. One of them was really boring and just kind of asymmetrical. One of them was big and symmetrical, and I liked it a lot. And then the third map that I got to play was this smaller, almost kind of urban, and it was the best because it was just everybody just mobbed together, grenades going everywhere, circle strafing going on all over the place. I had a lot of fun with it, Matt. I'm pleasantly surprised by this. And best of all, this is all going to be free, all free to play. I mean, even the campaign's going to be free if you have Game Pass. But even if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to be free. This is the map that I did not like, by the way. This is the one that I thought was boring. There was like a lot of choke points and dead ends, and I hate maps like that. So this was like the boring one, but then the 2 other maps I really liked. Like the bigger symmetrical one, I think might end up becoming like a classic Halo map. I kept hoping that that one would keep coming up every time we played, but it just didn't happen. So I had a very positive experience with Halo Infinite. I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't want it to end, mostly because I didn't get to play it as much as I wanted to. Because, again, I was moving in here, getting everything set up, taking care of the old studio, making sure it's all cleaned up. My life has been bonkers for the last like 3 or 4 days straight. And so it came at an unfortunate time. I did manage to get enough time into it to kind of understand the overarching theme of the game. And again, combat devolved. They have rolled it back to what I believe a lot of people think are the glory days of Halo multiplayer, and I think people are going to like it a lot. Obviously, the jury's still out on the vehicles. I haven't had a chance to really mess around with them, but what I've played so far, I am really, really impressed with. I wonder if anybody else in our chat managed to get into the tech test, and if they have any impressions, and if they vary from mine at all. Some people may like the changes that have come to Halo over the last couple entries. I don't, but I know... multiplayer-wise, the games have done well. They've built audiences that have stuck with the games for a significant amount of time. So, yeah, I had a blast with it. I had a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait to play more. I'll say this, too. If they carry that over into the campaign, I'm really excited for the campaign as well. We did get that kind of big chunk of campaign stuff. I didn't really get that vibe from it, though. Did you?
No.
It seemed like it was...
Yeah, I don't know. None of this makes me feel any better about the campaign.
About the campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about multiplayer? Do you think you might return if it's more of the classic style?
No. I don't have any interest or time for... To me, it's just throwing myself at the same thing over and over again. I don't care. Like I get nothing. I get no pleasure out of multiplayer shooters anymore.
You think you ever will?
Nah.
No. You think that ship has sailed for you?
Yeah. Even watching you just like kill people in this, it just makes me feel like bored and tired.
Wow.
I just don't care.
Interesting. Okay.
I played so many of them in the mid 2000s that at some point I just lost whatever that button in your brain that gives you dopamine when you succeed at doing something in a game. Like that button for a first person shooter multiplayer broke in my head. Like
Interesting.
It's just not there anymore.
Okay.
Which is weird because I got as you kill I remember that rush of you breaking that shield and getting that last couple shots and getting the kill right before they can kill you, and but then I think about how many times I've done that, and it just makes me kind of nauseous.
Oh, interesting. It's true.
I'm never going to tell anyone else not to play it.
They do become repetitive over time.
Yeah, all games are like that to some degree. But I have left multiplayer shooters behind, and I do not miss them.
I'm even kind of burning out on Rocket League at this point. Like my Rocket League resurgence, it is starting to feel like I'm not progressing. The people I'm playing against and with aren't progressing. I'm not seeing people doing stuff that I'm not doing. To where I'm like, oh, I need to learn that so I can get better. Like I've hit that plateau, I guess, and I guess I'm not good enough to like be playing with like the esports guys who just fly the whole freaking time. So I'm not getting pushed to get better at this point. And basically, whether I win or lose depends on whether my teammates
that's pretty much
suck.
My ceiling for like fighting games now too.
Yeah.
I hit a point where I'm like, I'm not getting any better. I'm not figuring out anything new against I'm getting beat the same way, and I'm not kind of
I'm winning the same way.
I'm winning the same way, same thing, and. I hit a point where it's like, well, I could either like really buckle down and figure out this game, or I could move on to something else. And usually I move on to something else. And sometimes it's because I have to, because we got to talk about stuff.
Yep.
But I feel like even if I didn't do this show, I don't feel like I would stick with too much. I might have stuck more with Virtua Fighter, the one that just came out.
Yeah.
I played a lot of that online and enjoyed it despite the lack of rollback. It was just nice to play Virtua Fighter again.
Yep. And I'm Matt, that's part of what I'm considering right now is like, is this me with my nostalgia goggles on? Because
yeah, I mean it could be, but I feel like that's only going to last about a day when the game's out.
It could
and you're in the middle of it.
Well, then you're hoping that the maps, the vehicles carry it for a couple more days. Like maybe there's some cool like match variants.
I think you'll know pretty quick.
Yeah.
Once you have your hands on the final thing.
I mean, I'll just say this it feels really good. It feels real good. Like really responsive. Like I felt like Halo 4 and 5, like it just like the whole like aerial stuff with the thrusters, it's not Halo. And this to me feels like Halo, but it doesn't feel completely antiquated like I've gone back and played Halo 1 or Halo 2. Like I said, the nearest comparison to me, the nearest comp is Halo 3. And that's my favorite Halo game. So I'm pretty excited about it. It also appears that this game is going to be as feature rich as what we saw from Halo 3. All kinds of stuff is leaked out from this technical test. I should bring that up. A battle royale mode appears to be in the works. They found some audio files that are hinting at there's going to be a battle royale. They data mined this also, and
there's definitely a timeline where Halo invents the battle royale.
Yeah,
like the game. This series has always been about the big maps and the big. Like, there's definitely a version of reality where that happened.
But it didn't, unfortunately, because Bungie stopped making it. I would argue, but 343 had that 3 or 4 years where they just had to figure out how to make a freaking Halo game, and that's what we got with Halo 4
instead of a Halo game.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, 343. I really don't like that game.
They're a good studio, though. They're skilled. Are they good at making a Halo game? We'll see. I feel like this is kind of their last chance. So to me, so far, so good. But you're right. It could be one of those things where I get 5 or 6 hours into the multiplayer and I'm like, oh yeah, like I know all about this, like, and it starts to feel too common. But what I played so far, I loved it. And it does feel a lot like the old Halo game. So if you are someone who played Halo 4 and Halo 5 and were like, what the F is this? I think you're going to be relieved when you play this multiplayer. And again, everyone's going to be able to play it because it is going to be free. So anyway, there you go. That's the Halo Infinite technical test. There are more coming up. You can go to the official website and you can sign up. From what I understood, it seemed like the vast majority of people who actually signed up and tried to get in did get in. You just kind of had to know about it and go and actually sign up for it. And I don't know if, because I was in on week 1, if I'll have to ask my buddy to get in on the next one or not. I'm not sure if it'll roll over. Generally, that's how those tests work. Like, they'll keep everybody who was already in the first week and just add people as they start spinning up servers and time goes on. But I'm not sure about that. But if you're a Halo fan, you should definitely try to get on the list. Definitely try to check it out. It is worth your time. I promise you that. All right, it's time to get to some Q&A. And the show's wrapped up a little bit early because this has literally been the slowest week in gaming like ever. So we can answer a bunch of questions from you guys if you have them. We're pretty open. If you want to ask about like our new location or the set, I'll answer questions about that or anything else we plan on doing with the show. If you showed up late and you weren't here when I kind of talked about everything off the beginning, if you want to ask questions here at the end of the show, I'm willing to answer them and kind of reiterate the stuff I talked about at the beginning, because a lot of people do kind of show up in the middle of stuff. Let's see if we've got... Okay, here's Eth Demon. He asks, given all the stuff happening over at Activision Blizzard with a number of projects seemingly on hold, do you think Call of Duty comes out this year? Yes, absolutely.
Call of Duty comes out this year is more likely than the sun rising tomorrow. It is definitely going to come out.
Activision Blizzard will go bankrupt if Call of Duty doesn't come out. It's literally like $2 billion that they rely on.
Yeah, it is hell or high water.
It's coming.
No
absolutely.
question.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all. That whole Call of Duty thing, it's a machine.
Yeah.
Like, nothing that happens socially is going to affect whether they finish a Call of Duty game. The other part of it, too, is that the studios that work on Call of Duty are not the studios involved in this scandal. Like, none of those studios were brought up in this.
I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff happening.
Oh, I'm sure, too.
But this is a more Blizzard.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that stuff like that has happened in almost every company in the United States. Let's just be honest, in different varying degrees.
Yeah. Like Sterling says, investigate them all. Mm-hmm. But for now, it's mostly a Blizzard problem.
Yep. Next up from Sneaky Charlotte Snake. Lads, where the F is Lego Star Wars? I pre-ordered it. I'm sorry. He said, I pre-ordered it 25 months ago. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, man.
I produced a segment about that long ago. June 2019
wow.
at E3. I remember that booth.
He says, love the lower thirds and the windows, by the way. Awesome. I'm glad you guys like it. I hope you guys all feel like this has all been a positive change for the show. Because I've been going through crap to get this done.
At the very least, like, it's not the most important gaming question, but it's probably one of my top 3 gaming questions right now is what is going on with this Lego Star Wars game?
It is bizarre. I don't know what
you want to talk about something that should be just a one and done slam dunk, like in terms of what you're developing. Like who does what is happening?
I don't know.
What's the holdup, boys? Like I don't. Matt McMuscles is gonna have to do a what happened about this game, and it's gonna be fine. It's not even gonna be a bad game. He's just gonna be like, like, I don't know. We just got to find out why it took 4 years to make another Lego Star Wars game.
Scorpio's Finest says it got canceled. I didn't hear that.
Canceled?
It didn't get canceled.
Hansel?
No way. They just showed like a new trailer for it not long ago.
Hansel? No, it's not canceled.
Yeah. Les David.
They just announced a new Lego Star Wars special for Disney Plus today.
Oh, they did?
It's a Halloween special.
Oh, really?
It's going to be like a horror anthology
story.
Special Star Wars special.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Les David. The Olympics used video game soundtrack for the opening. They did.
Yeah, they did.
And it was really cool. You know what? They also did that in China, though, too.
I think the music they used in Japan was a little more recognizable.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah. But they done that at the Olympics before. Yeah. But obviously, it's Japan. They better.
Yeah.
If they're not
going to do it. They played the Olympus Coliseum music from Kingdom Hearts, among a bunch of other stuff, but that was funny.
Minority Games. Hey, gents, this sifter is a dad. Awesome. I don't know if that's new to you, but if it is, congratulations. GameFace will be there through the diaper changes and the terrible twos. Well, I hope as you rock your baby to sleep at night, which you will end up doing a lot, that you pop in your earbuds and you listen to GameFace.
Yeah, use earbuds so I don't wake them up.
People like you are very thankful for the length of GameFace. Our 3-hour episodes, I get messages from people all the time how it gets people through whatever because we give you so much time and content every week. That's great to hear. Congratulations. Hope you're doing good and you're getting.
I wish I could listen to it.
Why can't you?
I already know what happens.
Oh, wow. I still listen to our show sometimes.
I know what I think. I don't need to listen to me.
I still listen to our show sometimes, believe it or not. I listen to podcasts like all day, every day. And I'm working on an idea for a new podcast, one that's more sustainable than 3-Night Weekend, so stay tuned. Lynn Jeff 99, where's your new studio? Santa Monica or near Activision? We are 5 blocks from our old studio, but we are basically right next to Riot Games.
Yeah.
And we're catty-cornered across the street from where Matt and I used to work at G4. So we're back in our old stomping grounds, basically.
We're not far from that Activision place wherever. I don't know if they moved.
And they did move, actually. The old one on Ocean Park, I don't know where the new one is.
Yeah, I don't know.
The old one on Ocean Park's a good ways away. But they're not there anymore. They moved somewhere else.
That's super far.
I mean, 3 miles, 4 miles maybe, something like that.
We used to walk to one of the Activision places from where we were.
That's got to be
here.
something different than the Ocean Park.
Like, we definitely walked to have lunch with some of the PR people from Activision a couple of times back, like kind of down south that way.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to walk. You wouldn't make it back in time for your lunch hour. I'll put it to you that way. That's for sure. Yeah, so we're still in border of West LA, Santa Monica. So we're on the west side still, but not Santa Monica proper or Venice Beach proper. Vincent, you mentioned Portal earlier. Have you been following the Splitgate saga? What are people keep talking about Splitgate? What is that?
I don't know.
We've not, obviously. Basically a shooter with portals, massively popular, needed more servers, might be worth a check if there's nothing next week. Okay, we'll take a look. See what's up. Tiny2K gifted out more subs. Thank you.
I've heard awesome. Splitgate. I've also heard, was it Blazeball? That mobile game?
Blazeball.
Blase ball. It's like a weird mobile game that's kind of catching fire right now.
I've never heard of it.
Look it up. I see ads for it. I haven't played it, but it's the new hotness. Apparently.
I mean, that's where we're at for the first couple weeks of August. The end of August, pretty sweet. There's a bunch of big games coming out at the end of the month. And I'm excited about that because it's been a while since we've had like bang, bang, bang. Here's a bunch of awesome games.
I'm still annoyed that one of them isn't Kenna. I was looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. But that's been delayed as well. So thanks again, Tiny2K, for gifting all those subs, bro. It's really awesome. Emperor Dread. I just wish I was in LA so I could get that Invisible Wall sign. It was my first podcast show. Oh, yeah. So some of you guys maybe you don't follow me on Twitter or you just don't go on Twitter at all. But when I was in the process of moving, I got down to where there was like 5 things left in the old studio, and one of them was the old Invisible Walls set prop. Basically the logo of Invisible Walls. It's huge. It weighs. It doesn't look that. It never looked that big on the show. It always looked like it was like this big, but it's actually like this big and like this tall, and it weighs like 20 pounds. And I didn't want to move it again. I had moved it like 3 different times. Like basically what happened was I left Game Trailers, and then obviously they hung on there for a while. Well, when they found out that Viacom had sold them to Defy, Ryan Stevens called me and he's like, hey, like this Invisible Wall sign is here and they're just going to throw it out, and you created the show. I was just going to see if you wanted it. And so my gut reaction was like, yeah, of course. Now, that's part of my history. That was one of the first shows I created when I got the Game Trailers. I liked the memento. And so I went and I got it. And it's just become this thing that I've had to like drag around. Like we had it at our first studio, and then when we went into Matt's house, I took it home and it sat at my apartment for a while. My wife hated it. And then when we got the second studio, I took it out of the apartment so she would quit complaining about it and put it in the other studio. And it just sat there, leaned up against the wall for 2 years. And so when I was moving into this new studio, I was like, you know what? It's time to turn the page. So I went on to my Twitter feed and I was like, hey, I'm like, if I did like a charity auction for this, would any of you bid? And probably like 4 or 5 people were like, yeah. And that wasn't enough. I was like, I'm not going to go through a whole charity of auction and having to like set it up with a charity and then ship it out. And so I was just going to throw it away. And then someone in LA reached out to me and they're like, I want it. Don't throw it away. And so yesterday I met with a couple people who came from Silver Lake, which is another part of Los Angeles, to pick it up. And we ended up having a conversation for like an hour about Game Trailers and everything. It was really fun and really cool. A guy named Michael has it now, and so it's been passed to a super fan. Let me tell you,
it's Michael Pachter.
He was a super fan. He was telling me stories about how him and his best friend, like he was Team Shane and his best friend was Team Marcus, and they would always argue. So anyway, it was a nice little nostalgia trip.
I was always Team Marcus.
Yeah, really good dudes that we got to talk for like an hour or whatever. It was fun. So anyway, it was not thrown away. The Invisible Walls prop, the only existing piece of memorabilia from the show, honestly, is still alive, and it's in safe hands. There is a fan out there who really loved the show who now has it. So it felt good to pass it on to somebody who appreciated it, cherished it, and really loved the show. And so there you go. That's where it is. Snark. Do you ever plan to invite game devs, maybe old friends in the business, to the show? Matt and I were just talking about that before this episode. Yes, we are talking about that. Will they be in person? Probably not, although that may change in the near future as COVID relaxes, but not immediately, no. Will they come on via Skype or Zoom? Maybe. Will it be pre-recorded, kind of like the stuff I do with Vincent? Maybe. We're still figuring it all out, but certainly it is a possibility going forward. So we'll see. OCD Master 1, when do you think we will get a 2 terabytes PS5 or Series X? Will we ever? No, I don't think we will. Because the expansion, they've gone so far into this expansion.
Yeah, it makes more sense cost-cutting wise to just keep it, especially if you're going to update the power of the hardware.
Yep.
You keep the hard drive the same size because we want to basically probably charge the same amount you charged for the initial console and, a few years later.
Yeah.
And if you up the hard drive size, you're going to add cost to that. So I think they're just going to stay 1 terabyte or 825 in the case of the PS5.
I agree. Yep. The Big Smoke 82. The new studio looks fantastic. Note Matt's house fantastic. Not Matt's house fantastic, but close. Takes a lot to live up to Matt's crib.
I definitely prefer to live there than here. But.
I would agree. But yeah, especially I think after we get the set dressed and the lighting's a little better, we get the cameras dialed in a little better because they were saying earlier in the show that like the camera was going light to dark. Once we get like the apertures and all that stuff set on the cameras and it looks solid, I think you guys will like it even more. But already, I like it more than any studio we've had. I just like being able to see outside. It's nice to work in here and see outside because our last place was like a dungeon.
Yeah, we gotta figure the light balance out though.
Yeah. It's obviously I'm like all dark and you can see like the parking lot outside and whatnot. And actually, if you actually look out this window behind me, you can even see the twin skyscrapers at Century City, but you can't because it's out of frame on the camera. Mm-hmm. But we got a decent view here, which is pretty cool. And I just think it just makes the show feel more alive. Both studios we've had no windows.
Yeah, I mean, also the trick is as winter starts, it's gonna be dark. You're gonna basically watch the light change behind us as we do.
Yeah, time goes on. We're in the middle of summer right now, so it stays sunny way later.
In the depths of winter, it's almost dark by 4 p.m.
Yep, it is. Yep, and that's when our lighting will take over more. I know, actually, probably the exposure on the cameras will be better then too.
Yeah,
oddly enough. This is for Vidya Games. Either of you pre-order a Playdate? Seems super niche.
Too niche for me.
It is too niche for me. It's really cool.
Yeah, I will say, like, I at least understand why Playdate is a thing more than the Amico.
I'd agree with that.
Like, I get what Playdate's after.
Yeah.
It's not for me, but, like, I get it.
Yep, I get it, too. I think the Amico is going to tank.
You think?
Sorry, Tommy Tallarico. But you came on my show and turned it into an advertisement, so you get what you get. But yeah, I think it looks the Playdate looks really cool, but it's too expensive for something. It's just like a novelty. Mm-hmm. Like I really admire what they're doing. It's too much for what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's for the Playdate.
Yeah.
I think the Playdate is more reasonably priced than the Amico for what it is.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
but it's just not something I feel an attachment to enough to want to do. It's just I get there's for some people that have a nostalgia for that kind of experience. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's cool, but like, it's just not for me.
I might have still bought it if I thought it was going to be something that might increase in value over time. I just don't see it because
I don't know.
It's just hard like this third-party company. So anyway, it just seemed too risky to me. So yeah, I don't think either one of us are going to get it. But maybe I'll reach out to them and see if they'll send me like one to test.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and then we can talk about it here on the show. But I don't think I'll be buying one. JM Rain 99, thanks again for everything you do, man. All the making it rain, all the bits, all the gift subs, everything you do, man. Hope you're doing good. With Brack leaving Blizzard, what other steps do you think Blizzard will need to take to turn things around? Also, do you think that Sony and Xbox will allow cancellations for Diablo 2 given the current situation? So I think he's asking, like, if a customer doesn't want to support Blizzard and ask for a refund, do we think Sony and Xbox will honor that?
I think they probably would.
I think it's like 50-50.
I mean, Xbox, you can do that. I don't know about Sony. Used to be like if you pre-ordered something, you were stuck unless you contacted them. But I feel like if you contacted them and said why, I think they would probably do it. Like they've gotten better about stuff like that lately. As long as you haven't already downloaded anything.
Yeah.
If you've already downloaded something, like it's basically you're beyond the point of no return at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to download from Diablo 2 yet though, because it's a long way out. I mean, I'm certainly not going to buy Diablo 2 now. Like I don't I want to. I love Diablo 2. I was looking forward to it.
I mean, on principle, you're not going to buy it?
No, I'm not giving them my money after all
So
this.
what could they do that would change your mind so that you would buy it?
Nothing by that point.
Yeah. When does it come out again?
September 23rd or something like that.
It is coming soon. I mean, I hate to say it, but like that's the only way Blizzard's going to learn. Because look, they were investigated for this a long time ago.
It's not a secret.
Yeah. And they still couldn't get their ship in order.
And people have selective memories and forget about it. It's like, like people are saying like the Cosby Suite thing that was like that happened in 2013. They're like, oh, but Cosby's like trials for the court stuff was like 2014. Yeah, allegations against Bill Cosby for sexual harassment and like assault go back to the early 80s. Like everybody knew that's went forever.
Got out of jail on a technicality.
Yeah, well, it's been by the 2005, a bunch of women came forward en masse and talked about what happened. Everyone knew by 2013 that was basically happening.
Yep.
And so yeah, that was absolutely was going on there. So I see no inclination or reason to support that company until we see some really drastic change, and like that's obviously a step forward. But you have to gut and rebuild the entire company culture there. I don't know how you. I mean, you promote women and people of color.
There needs to be more firings.
Heavily, more firings. Complete shakeup at the top ranks of Blizzard. I would say you get rid of the Blizzard name entirely. Like it's stopped. It just becomes.
That's not going to happen.
I think it will. I don't think you rehabilitate that brand name.
I think you can.
I don't think you can.
That's big.
I think Blizzard
That's a big step.
I think Blizzard is gone. I think Blizzard is over.
I do not agree with that.
Blizzard is over.
Wow. We'll see. I would be surprised if that happens.
I would be surprised because it's the correct thing to do, and I would be.
I mean, it probably
I'd be surprised if they do it to some degree.
Yeah.
But that is what needs to happen. Blizzard needs to go away as an entity.
Wow.
Just call it Activision South or something.
Big words. Mike's Q. What is the longest you had to wait for a pre-order? I had a pre-order for Twilight Princess back when it was called Wind Waker 2. I don't remember that.
When it was first announced that they were doing another Zelda for GameCube, it was just put in like GameStop's like computers as Wind Waker 2 because no one knew what it was yet.
Okay, I had forgotten that. Also, how likely is it that someone makes a funny face in the window across the corner office during GameFace? Which corner office?
Yeah, I can't really see through
That's
there.
like 100 yards away. They could do it. I don't think we'd ever see them. Those windows are also tinted hardcore. Yeah. Actually, ours are too. But yeah, I don't think that would be funny. But I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. It's possible. What's the longest pre-order you've had, Matt?
I don't remember. Nothing too. I used to pre-order at the very last minute because I hated giving them money for nothing. Like I hated pre-ordering. I always despised pre-orders because they wanted like the $5 deposit, and I'm like, you just want that for a free investment, basically. You want me to put $5 down so you get to make interest off that while you haven't given me the thing I paid for. So I would wait until like a week before the game came out before I pre-ordered.
Me, it's Ocarina of Time, easily. I pre-ordered it when I got my N64, and 2 years later I finally got the game. So yeah, that was the longest pre-order I ever had. Both Zelda games for both of us, oddly enough. Norix Nessie 94. Do you feel God of War and Gran Turismo will actually release next year? I think that will get pushed to 2023.
I think God of War will definitely come out next year.
Me too. Yeah, I think it'll come out. Gran Turismo, it should.
You can never be sure with Polyphony. Probably next year.
It should.
It should. Yeah, it should.
Will it?
But who knows?
I would say that God
of War. I expect God of War in the first half of the year,
and more likely than Gran Turismo. Even though the initial rumors were like Gran Turismo may come out this year.
Yeah, I never believed anything. Yeah. I mean, I never believed God of War would come out this year, but like,
yeah,
I think God of War will be out next year.
I believe you, or I agree with you. Cinetike, do you think 60 frames per second will stick as a target for this gen of consoles, at least having the option, or as time goes by, will they try to squeeze every last drop of visual quality and go back to 30 frames per second? P.S. I hope not.
I think they will continue to keep the option, the performance and quality mode.
Yep. I agree.
That seems to work for everyone, and
it does. Yeah,
it's a good way to.
Yeah, I think
they'll
just keep giving you the option to do what you want, and they'll make a 30 frames per second mode that just blows your doors off.
Yeah,
and also cut back some stuff for.
And also note how often, like we've also seen after the fact, once the game is done and polished, like how often they various developers have added like a 60 frames per second with limited ray tracing mode.
Right.
Like they found a way to split that difference. Yep. For even middle of the road. I think that'll continue. I think.
Also, personally, I don't find 60 frames per second to be the standard.
No, I played Ratchet on quality. I don't mind 30 as long as it's steady.
I played Ratchet on 30, but I play like other stuff at 120. Like their performance mode for Call of Duty Cold War and for Rocket League, you're talking 120 frames per second. That's my standard now. And I'm fortunate that I have a TV that, can display at 120 frames per second and 4K. But as time goes on, everyone's going to have those TVs. And that's why these consoles were
like
built
by the end of the
they
gen, that'll be a fairly common thing.
I think every TV will probably be 100.
Yeah, it'll be like you won't have a choice. They're just all going to support that.
Yeah. I would really recommend if you're buying a new TV here soon, put out the extra money. For
I would definitely make sure you have 120 hertz on any new TV you were happening to buy.
Yep.
In the near future.
Evil Oni 5. Will we ever see a sub $200 console again? No. Did we ever see one?
I mean, I think like the Genesis was like $200 when it came out, something like that. Yeah. They weren't that much back then. I mean, obviously that's more now. Like, inflation means they were probably more like $400 then.
I don't remember how much the Genesis was.
I want to say they were $199 if I remember right.
Because even like the Atari 2600 was like $249. I can't remember too many that were $200 or less.
I would say I definitely feel like the Genesis was $199 at some point.
Okay. No.
But again, if you convert that to modern money, it's more like $400.
Yeah, no, that's not. It's never going to happen again, unless it's just some like an Amico type thing, which is what the Amico should cost or less. Can you believe how much they're charging for that thing?
Is that like $350?
I think it's like $250 or something. Still, dude, it's like a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
Dreamcast was $199.
That's right. Good point. Let's see. What did you think of the Suicide Squad film? I didn't see it yet.
Doesn't come out till Friday.
Oh. So. Then why is he asking us what we think of it?
I don't know. People have seen it. They've done like fan premiere events and stuff.
We haven't seen it yet.
But no, I haven't seen it.
No problem, Snark. I see you thanking us for answering your question. Who does Matt's nails? Scorpio's finest.
This is a place called Nail Garden in Glendale that I go to with my friend.
Yeah. Sneaky says, I can't wait to see the weather behind you. Hope there isn't any weather, dude.
There's no weather
You're
in LA.
Seeing it right
That's
now.
what it's going to look like forever.
That is the weather. This is LA. This is why we pay so much money to
live. The odds that one Tuesday is going to be like one of the 5 days it rains is not
like of all year.
Yeah. It's like if you're lucky, maybe one day we'll get a huge thunderstorm back there. Actually, if the fires start, you'll get some nice like smoke gray, yellow dystopian haze. But
this is it, dude. This is every day in LA. Much. That's just the way it is. It's
hot and sunny every day.
It's why it's so expensive to live here. It's just the weather's
hot
perfect.
And sunny. Only lizards feel that way about this kind of weather.
This and 70 to 75 every day.
Yeah, so it's been cool. It's been cooler here than in like Oregon this past month. Yeah. Like it's like 80, 90 degrees in Oregon. It's like, it's like 78 here. It's very nice.
Yeah.
And this is the desert city, right?
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
This is the coolest, weather-wise, the coolest year of any year I've lived here.
Yeah. It has been cold.
Yeah.
At times.
By LA standards,
but now it's just we're getting what we pay for now. The last month
80-ish, but even then, like when we first moved here in like 2004, it was like 90, 100 degrees all July. It was July and August were roasting at all times.
Yep.
Like coming out of the office at the end of the day, being all the air conditioning all day, you'd come out, you're just like, what the hell has been going on out here? And now it's just like very pleasant.
Yep. Matt is right. Today's PR notice was all letterhead for Blizzard, not Activision Blizzard. I'm not sure what that means.
They're pinning it all on Blizzard.
Oh,
and when they get rid of the Blizzard name, it will be like it never happened.
Wampler brings up a good point. My new order tickets that I've already had for 2 years that I'm now going to have for 3
That's the longest pre-order.
I just realized
pre-new order.
I just realized I had the camera on me the whole time there. Actually, those new order tickets, I've had them for 2 years, and now it's going to be 3 years. Yeah.
If the Blizzard, we should place bets in the Blizzard. If the Blizzard name goes away, I win the fantasy draft automatically.
No way, dude. I'm not agreeing to that.
Oh, you're not that sure then.
No,
okay.
I'm trying to go back to back for the first time here. Like, we'll see if it happens. I still don't believe it. I have a feeling that like something's going to happen and I'm going to still lose. Okay, I think that's it. JM Rain, I live in Minnesota. You're making me not want to support you with the weather talk. I've experienced minus 40 below. I was just watching a documentary on YouTube about Siberia, and there is this town up there where it's like the average temperature during the winter is minus 52 Fahrenheit, and it gets down to like minus 72. It was mind-blowing, dude.
Yeah, some of that stuff up like in there, like Minnesota and stuff, it's like, that's not, as Lewis Black says, it's not weather. That's an emergency condition.
It is.
Like, fly me somewhere where it's like 20.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I think that's going to do it for GameFace 266, our first episode in our new digs. I hope you guys like them. We will keep working on the space, keep working on the cameras, keep working on the lighting, and get it better for you guys. Don't forget, next week, name that game for the first time. Bring your A game if you're going to try to beat this guy, because he is like an encyclopedia of game knowledge, and it's going to be tough to beat him. But if you do, you'll win awesome prizes. Before we go, I just want to thank everybody who was on. There's still more questions we could have answered. Thank you guys for staying on the stream for the whole show and asking great questions at the end. Thanks for the bits. Eviloni5 just gave us another 100 bits. Thanks for all the gift subs that people gave out. Thanks for all the Twitch Prime from today. You guys are awesome. If people are listening to this show out on Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio or wherever the heck else the show is, and you want to support us, head to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. And if you can't afford to support us at all, you can always help us with Twitch Prime by subscribing to our Twitch channel. It's very easy. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can just look down in the description below. Also, while you're at it, why not ring that bell and hit the like button and all that other crap you're supposed to do so you know whenever our show's going live. Also, if you can't afford to help us and you want to know when our stuff does go live for free, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Sifted Games. You can find me, I'm at Dinfire, DINFIRE. You can find Matt at MKyle, that's MKEIL. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I think that's it. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for your support on our Patreon. Without you guys, we wouldn't have this new studio. Let's just be honest. You guys have paid for our new studio, and I really appreciate it. And the good news is we're not paying more than we were before, and we got a nice upgrade on the place. And Matt even has his own parking space now.
Yeah, you don't have to park in the weird
he used to have to park out in the neighborhood. Now he has a parking space in our garage. So.
No longer do we suffer the tyranny of the street cleaning hours.
Matt, I think this might be the only good thing that came out of COVID. Is that the office space rentals have just plummeted because so many businesses, I hate to say, have gone out of business, and so there's just office space open all over LA right now, and that's one of the only things related to COVID that's actually worked out in our favor through all of this. But anyway, as always, head to patreon.com/sifted if you want to help us out, and you could help us out. It just turned over, and I think we may be at the lowest our Patreon has been maybe ever right now. I don't know what happened. We lost so many patrons over this month's turnover. Not sure why, because they didn't leave like their exit interviews or whatever. Most people don't. So anyway, if you've ever thought about, hey, maybe I should support Sifted on Patreon, now's the time. We just got our new studio and we got a bunch of expenses. I also had to pay, this sucks, Matt, I had to pay an extra half month rent at our old place. Yeah.
Why?
Because I had reached out to them about reworking our lease, and they said, we'll get back to you. And they kept dragging their feet and delaying to the point where we ended up staying there. Like, I'm out of there. But they're charging me for the next 2 weeks because we put in our notice late because I was waiting for them to get back to me about, like, the lease.
Probably intentional.
So anyway, if you've ever thought about supporting us on Patreon, now is definitely the time, and we'd really appreciate it. So anyway, I think that's it. We'll be back here, and we're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/siftedgames. Hopefully, Matt will have some more games to talk about next week.
That'd be nice.
Because the Ascent wasn't getting it done. So hopefully next week we'll have some more games to talk about. Until then, have yourselves a great week. GameFace is up and out.